Part 7 Recap dramatically expands Leon Stark's power and the Avengers' battle against the Chitauri invasion. Tony returns stronger than ever, while Thor joins the fight and loses the Mjolnir challenge to Steve Rogers, exposing Steve's worthiness. New York falls into chaos as Leon, disguised as Ebony Maw, overwhelms the Avengers and nearly ends humanity's hope. Hawkeye courageously intercepts a nuclear missile, while Rhodey becomes War Machine to defend the city. Leon returns, unlocks the complete Godzilla template, absorbs the nuclear blast, defeats Ebony Maw, and leads the Avengers in a devastating counterattack. The battle ends with Leon, Tony, Thor, and...
Welcome to Part 8 of Leon Stark's incredible journey. After arriving on Sakaar, Leon, Tony, Thor, and Loki are about to face a completely new adventure filled with powerful enemies, unexpected encounters, and dangerous challenges. Milky Way Fire. Subscribe, like and comment. Red heart thumbs up speech balloon. Headphone. Let's begin Part 8. Fire.
Number 176. Loki. In the end, I'm the one who suffers TT. Whoosh. A battered, cargo container-sized flying bus descended in front of Leon and the others. Out stepped a group of scavengers, dressed like intergalactic vagrants, armed with mismatched, cobbled-together weapons. Gladiators. Leon, no. You work for the Grandmaster? Tony, Greenmaster? Neither? Then you're food. The gray-skinned Mohawk leader grinned and fired a high-voltage net launcher. Leon and Tony sidestepped in perfect sync. Thor, meanwhile, grabbed the quietly retreating Loki, who had instinctively moved behind him for cover, and threw him forward. Brother?
ZZZ60.
The electrified net wrapped Loki instantly, releasing high-voltage current and neurotoxin. His eyes rolled back in seconds. The twin blades lion's fangs finally sliced through the net, but by then Loki's perfectly styled hair was standing on end like an exploded dandelion. You three did that on purpose. Your reaction speed was slow, Leon replied calmly. Loki couldn't refute that. Couldn't win a fight either. So he turned on the scavengers instead. You will kneel. I am Loki, son of Odin. Shut up and fire. The scavengers unleashed everything they had. Energy nets, lasers, solid slugs. Nothing standardized, just whatever they'd looted. Loki smirked. Lion's fangs spun into a spiraling shield, blocking the first wave. Green light flashed, and Loki vanished. The projectiles redirected straight toward Leon, Tony, and Thor. Pointless. Tony's magnetic field *** deflected all kinetic and energy attacks. Leon's telekinesis froze bullets, nets, and lasers midair. His absolute thought acceleration let him track even light-speed trajectories. The scavenger leader's confidence drained instantly. Then, rip, rip, rip. Invisible blades carved his companions cleanly in half. In seconds, he stood alone. You, what are you? Just wandering Ronin, Leon replied. Remember that, Ronin? He didn't finish the thought. Loki sliced him into 4 equal segments without spilling a drop. Leon nodded. Stylish. Tony, solid execution. Thor laughed. You're my brother, but you fight dirty. Loki shrugged. To me, battle is a dirty game. And I'm a dirty player. He lacked divine stats. He lacked legendary weapons. So he played mechanics. Win by any means. Whoosh. Another ship descended. Sleeker. Shaped like a mechanical toad. For landing, struts deployed. Its mouth opened, extending a tongue-like ramp toward them. Hello. Good afternoon. Drink.
Cheers.
A brown-skinned woman in leather armor emerged, symmetrical white war paint marking her face. She chugged a bottle in one go, then promptly stumbled sideways and fell straight off the ramp into the junk pile. ×4. Loki tilted his head. Is she comedic relief? Perhaps, Thor said, boldly stepping forward to inspect. He immediately plunged one leg knee-deep into the corpse of some alien beast, from which leaked an alarming amount of semi-translucent white viscous fluid. Holy! Thor yanked his leg free, coated in material that would require censorship bars. Brother, Loki called helpfully, "You may need to amputate." Then, he carefully circled around Thor to check on the fallen woman. He took 2 steps.
Buzz.
Something the size of a thumb flew out of the trash and latched onto his neck. What the hell? It was a button-sized disc, rimmed with needle-like prongs burrowing into his skin. He tried to rip it off, and met the woman's gaze from the junk pile. She smiled lazily, pressed a button. Zzzzzzzt. Black veins spread from the device across Loki's neck. His body locked up instantly. He collapsed stiffly onto the ground. "Loki!" Thor shouted. Inside, Loki wailed. Of course it's me again. Why am I always the one who suffers?"
TT.
Number 177. Valkyrie mission. Screw it, let's go loud.
Thwip. Thwip. Thwip.
The moment Loki went down, the woman flicked out 3 more neurotoxin discs. Targets: Leon, Tony, and Thor. Thor, gripping Mjolnir, lightning crackling around him, reacted instantly. Learning from Loki's mistake, he unleashed a sharp EMP burst, a technique he'd picked up from Leon. The electromagnetic pulse fried the disc's internal circuitry before they even got close. They dropped uselessly to the ground. Leon blinked. "You've mastered that already?" Thor shrugged. "I've been practicing. It's usable." The EMP didn't raise his ceiling, but it refined his control over lightning, making his power more precise. Leon, watching, suddenly remembered his own storm template-granted plasma manipulation. Technically a lower-tier variant of Tony's magnetokinesis. Maybe he should consult Stark sometime. Meanwhile, Tony had already picked up the 3 disabled discs. Valkyrie, Scrapper 142, recognized Mjolnir instantly. Seeing her attack fail, she moved to retreat toward her ship. Leon raised a hand. Invisible telekinesis pinned her midair. Tony glanced sideways while dismantling an REA** assembling the discs. "I've been meaning to ask. The giant lizard transformation and telekinesis, where exactly did those come from?" "Long story," Leon replied smoothly. "RC's preparing the Homelander 3. You'll get the origin story there." Tony sighed.
Sure.
"Can't wait." He was long past questioning Leon's unreasonable power spikes. A moment later, snap. The 3 modified discs fused into a single neurotoxin collar, which Tony magnetically snapped around Valkyrie's neck. Leon released her. She dropped back into the junk heap, scrambled up, and bolted for her toad-shaped ship. She jumped inside. JRVS. Tony didn't even raise his voice. Zzzzzt. She spasmed and fell back out. Damn it. Loki, now freed from his own obedience disc thanks to Thor, stormed forward, humiliated. "You dare lay hands on a god?" He drew lion's fangs, ready to carve her in half. 2 fingers caught the blade's tip.
Leon.
"Hold on. Didn't you notice something?" He gestured. Valkyrie was pulled forward again. Leon tore back the leather guard on her right arm.
A rune.
The crest of the Valkyrie, Odin's elite warriors. Thor froze.
Oh, my
God. You're a Valkyrie? That was Father's finest legion. He looked like a kid meeting his childhood hero. "You know, when I was young, I always wanted to be a Valkyrie." Leon released her jaw control. She glanced pointedly at Thor's lower half. "So, you're saying you're secretly a woman?" Loki nearly choked, holding in laughter. Thor glared at him.
No.
"I meant, I admired you. I didn't know they were all women at first. I'm Thor, son of Odin. What's your name?" "Odin's son." She studied him, didn't contradict him. "Valkyrie. That's the unit name. I'm asking your name. And the others? If Father knew you survived. There are no others." Her voice went flat. "I abandoned my old name. Valkyrie is enough." Loki's blade hovered threateningly at her throat, ensuring cooperation. Thor's unease deepened. "What do you mean, no others?" Before she could answer, a roar of engines. Dozens of Sakaran fighters swept overhead. "Outsiders. Release Scrapper 142. As an employee of the Grandmaster, she is not under your jurisdiction." Thor ignored them, eyes fixed on Valkyrie. "Explain." She laughed bitterly. Pitiful. For Odin's throne, the Valkyria had bled nearly to extinction. Their names erased, their graves unmarked, and Odin's son stood here, ignorant. The loudspeaker repeated its warning. Outsiders. Thor finally snapped. Shut up. Mjolnir launched skyward.
Boom.
The broadcasting fighter detonated into raining scrap. The rest immediately shifted to attack formation. Hostile engagement authorized. Leon pinched the bridge of his nose, barely hiding a grin. He had originally planned a diplomatic infiltration. When the Grandmaster slowly seized Sakaar's control and that theoretical cyber artifact capable of deleting Thanos in one move.
Well.
So much for that. No need to overthink it now. Time to go loud. Number 178. Afraid you'll suffer. Afraid you'll drive a rover. I'll go first. Tony brought his palms together. A spark of blue arc light flickered between them.
Clap.
A hemispherical electromagnetic pulse burst outward. In an instant, the electronics of the dozens of Sakaran fighters surrounding them short-circuited. Engines died. Ships dropped from the sky like dead birds. Tony had just learned it on the spot. Thor's trick, optimized. Leon followed. He raised one hand toward the surviving pilots scrambling out of their wrecked craft. Pop, pop, pop. Telekinetic pressure crushed them into red splashes across the metallic debris. The remaining soldiers froze. Those who hadn't yet exited their cockpits scrambled back inside in panic. But Leon's observation hockey had already sensed the flicker of killing intent in their hearts. Even a trace. That was enough. Praise death. Moments later. Silence. The air reeked of iron. Valkyrie stared. Who are you people? Thor stepped forward proudly. Thor Odinson, god of thunder. Loki followed smoothly. Loki Odinson, god of mischief. Leon grinned. Leon Stark Odinson, god of battle. Tony blinked. Tony Stark Odinson, god of wisdom. The other three turned in unison. You don't have a seat. Excuse me? Tony wiped imaginary sweat from his brow. Valkyrie rolled her eyes. For lunatics. All absurdly powerful. Thor turned back to her. You haven't answered me. What happened to the Valkyrie? Valkyrie's expression hardened. There's nothing to say. I've already died once. I won't be dragged back into Odin's family drama. If you still honor what the Valkyrie did for your father's throne, release me. Otherwise, kill me. Thor faltered. He looked helplessly toward Leon and Tony. Loki, currently rummaging through scrap like a happy raccoon, was ignored. Leon stepped closer, lifting Valkyrie's chin casually. He examined her. Dark skin. Average build. Nowhere near his short-skirt legion standards. Hard paw *S. Thor, Leon said lazily. We could just execute her. Thor recoiled. Absolutely not. I finally find a surviving Valkyrie. I'm taking her home to father. Leon tilted his head mischievously. Or, I could have some fun first. He reached toward her deliberately. Valkyrie, who hadn't flinched at death, visibly panicked. Stop. It was Hela. Silence. Your sister, she continued tightly. Odin's firstborn. Hela, goddess of death. Thor froze.
What?
Valkyrie spoke steadily. You are not Odin's first child. Hela is. Before you were born, she was Asgard's sharpest blade. Conquest incarnate. Until her ambition outgrew Odin's control, she sought to expand war beyond the 9 realms. Odin defeated her and attempted to banish her to the void. She escaped. While Odin dealt with Muspelheim's uprising, the Valkyrie were sent to capture her. Thor swallowed. And you've seen the result. Even away from Asgard, Hela grew stronger. She slaughtered nearly all of us. Only I survived by accident. I fell through an unstable wormhole and ended up here. Thor's voice dropped. Where is she now?
Dead.
Or sealed. But Odin rarely destroys what he can imprison. To truly kill Hela, you have to destroy Asgard itself. The words hung heavy. Thor stood stunned. His lifelong identity, the heir to Asgard, cracked. Meanwhile, Loki, off to the side, was practically glowing.
So,
Thor wasn't the true heir either. There had always been someone above him, a legitimate firstborn. Loki hummed cheerfully while digging through scrap. Afraid you'll suffer. Afraid you'll drive a rover. He couldn't help smiling. In the end, they were both second choices. One biological, one adopted, but neither the original successor. He found an intact Sakaar neurocontrol device and tucked it into his dimensional pouch. Ever since borrowing a sling ring from Kamartaj, Loki had awakened a hoarder's instinct. If it looked useful, into the pocket it went. A different kind of ship descended. Elegant, ornate, not scrap. A golden-robed elderly man appeared, smiling warmly from a floating chair, pushed by a muscular female guard. Welcome to Sakaar, my friends. The Grandmaster had arrived. Number 179. Rebellion and Loyalty. Time shifted slightly backward. In a dim stretch of interstellar space, a Ma**Civ throne hovered in the void. Upon it sat Thanos, clad in full golden battle armor. At the base of his throne, standing close enough to touch it, were his two adopted daughters, Gamora, green-skinned and composed, Nebula, blue-skinned, cybernetically enhanced. Flanking the lower tiers stood Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive, ever vigilant. Kneeling on the lowest step was a woman cloaked in white. Her black and silver combat suit clung tightly to a figure both regal and lethal. White-hot eyes, crimson lips, a proud, queenly smile. Her skin carried a faint azure tint, alien unmistakably. Supergiant. My lord, she purred, raising her hands reverently. See what I have brought you. Resting in her palms was a dark silver orb, lattice-like in structure. The orb. Thanos did not move at first. The orb, he said calmly. Gamora stepped forward without being asked and retrieved it from Supergiant's hands. Nebula, who had begun to move half a second too late, subtly withdrew her foot. Show off, she thought bitterly. Thanos turned the orb in his hand as if polishing a collector's trinket. Silence filled the chamber. Then, Nebula's cybernetic eye flickered. Incoming data. She leaned toward Thanos' ear. Father, Ebony Maw is dead. The Chitauri army has been annihilated by the humans of Earth. A pause. Shall we respond? The others heard enough. Thanos exhaled softly. Ebony Maw and the Chitauri are expendable. He squeezed the orb. It shattered. Within it lay a glowing purple gem. The Power Stone. This, Thanos said quietly, is what matters. Nebula frowned slightly. The Mind Stone remains on Earth. Thanos smiled faintly. To take, one must first give. What is mine will return to me. The Mind Stone is merely in temporary custody. Those unworthy who grasp at it invite only destruction. He closed his fist around the Power Stone. A surge of violet energy erupted outward. Nearby stars trembled. Then, they collapsed silently into cosmic dust. The display left even the Black Order breathless. Proxima and Corvus felt only pride. Supergiant felt ecstasy. The stronger Thanos became, the closer she came to the death she longed to receive at his hand. Nebula felt awe mixed with fear. Gamora smiled, but beneath it, fatigue,
doubt.
She had once believed in Thanos' vision, balance, order. Now she felt only exhaustion from endless slaughter. She wanted to leave, to escape, but she was buried too deep in blood. Gamora. Her name cut through her thoughts. She dropped instantly to one knee. I am here, father. Thanos regarded her for a long moment. Black Dwarf has vanished, drawn into a wormhole mid-mission. His gaze swept the chamber. Which of you will retrieve my lost lamb? Nebula tried to speak. Nothing came out. Supergiant's eyes gleamed. I will, my lord. Nebula clenched her fists. Of course you will. Supergiant bowed elegantly and departed. Her loyalty was to Thanos alone, never to his daughters. When she was gone, Thanos descended from his throne. He lifted Gamora's chin gently. My daughter, is something troubling you? She pulled away, unable to meet his eyes. I am tired. May I take leave? For a moment, Thanos' expression softened. Do you remember our travels when you were young? You always chased danger. I am not a child anymore. Her voice trembled despite her effort. Please, father. She lowered her gaze. After a long pause, Thanos sighed. Very well. But wherever you wander, remember to return home. Yes. Her answer was barely audible. Beside them, Nebula's fists trembled. Jealousy burned through her like acid. Thanos never looked at her that way. To him, she was only a weapon to be improved.
Why?
Why was she never enough? Love curdled into resentment. Resentment curdled into hatred. But fear kept her silent. Always silent. Number 180. Supergiant's unfortunate adventure. After departing the throne of Titan, Supergiant piloted her ship alone toward the coordinates where Obsidian, Black Dwarf, had vanished. Given the nature of her abilities and her absolute confidence in them, she required no escort. Wherever she went, armies followed in her wake. Here, there's nothing. Through the transparent viewport, she gazed into the silent stretch of space ahead. No visible wormhole, only a dim river of stars drifting slowly across the void. Could the information my lord provided be wrong? She dismissed the thought instantly. To doubt Thanos was blasphemy. She guided the ship into a slow patrol pattern around the disappearance point. It had barely advanced a kilometer when, vum, a ripple distorted the space directly in front of her vessel. Before she could react, a wormhole snapped open. Ship and pilot were swallowed whole. Silence returned immediately. The fragile fabric of space resealed, as if nothing had ever happened.
Sakaar.
Grandmaster's reception hall. Beyond the towering GLA*S windows roared the arena, crowds chanting, combatants clashing. Thor, Loki, and Tony sat somewhat stiffly, not entirely comfortable with the alien refreshments. Leon, on the other hand, devoured everything in sight without hesitation. On the Ma*Civ display screen behind them played footage of the New York battle, specifically Leon descending like a god and crushing Ebony Maw. The Grandmaster beamed. You know, Leon, I've been a huge fan of the Homelander ever since he went public with that identity. A hero who does whatever he wants, whenever he wants. Magnificent. Honestly, you're the template I wish I designed myself. He turned eagerly. Autograph. His assistant handed Leon a stylus. Of course, my friend. Leon wiped his mouth and signed boldly across the Grandmaster's back, encircling his name in a heart for good measure. Follow the Homelander, and you've made it in life, Leon declared proudly. Thor, Loki, and Tony nodded solemnly. Absurd. The ruler of this backwater cosmic gladiator world was a fan. Reality had officially given up pretending to make sense. They chatted casually. From the Grandmaster, they learned the simple truth of Sakaar. His word was law. Always. A guard entered and reported that scavengers had recovered something interesting. The Grandmaster's eyes lit up. Leon, care to join me? Why not? Leon shrugged. He glanced at the others. Loki shook his head. The arena fascinates me. Thor stood. I'd like to explore. Sakaar is unlike Asgard. Tony draped an arm over Thor's shoulder. Count me in. Would you like a guide? The Grandmaster asked pleasantly. Thor and Tony declined in unison. We prefer to explore the unknown ourselves. Unknown is half the fun. The Grandmaster laughed delightedly. You understand me already. Elsewhere, Supergiant regained consciousness. Her limbs were restrained to a metallic chair. Around her shimmered shifting, unreal scenery. Like reality itself was unstable. She attempted to activate her telepathic control. Nothing. As if her mind had been muted. A calm female voice echoed around her. Do not be afraid. We have found you. This is your home. No one leaves. But what place is this? This is Sakaar. Encircled by cosmic pathways. The border between the known and the unknown. All things discarded and despised gather here. Like you. Yet here, you are valuable. You belong to the Grandmaster. He is the founder, the first lost, the creator of the Contest of Champions. You will meet him in 5 seconds. Prepare yourself. The tunnel of warped light accelerated.
5, 4, 3.
Supergiant's white-hot eyes narrowed. For the first time since leaving Titan, she felt something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. Number 181. Supergiant enslaved. Prepare yourselves. The female voice paused. The surroundings, which at first shifted slowly enough to perceive, suddenly accelerated into an incomprehensible blur, as if asterisks sing through a space-time corridor. Supergiant felt dizzy and disoriented. Overwhelmed by a loss of control, she screamed, "Aha!"
Sakaar.
The Grandmaster's audience chamber. The perspective shifted. When Supergiant regained her vision, her scream died in her throat. She realized she had never moved at all. She was still locked into a metallic restraint chair. All around her stood rows upon rows of armored guards holding enforcement staves, packed tightly like spectators at an execution. They stared at her with open amusement. Only then did Supergiant realize how utterly embarrassing her outburst had been. Mortified, she lowered her head, her blue cheeks tinged with an awkward flush. She didn't dare meet anyone's gaze. ×2. Seated opposite her on a lavish couch, the Grandmaster and Leon both leaned forward at the same time, craning their necks. The Grandmaster found her little performance entertaining. Leon's gaze, by contrast, was one of open appreciation, taking in Supergiant's striking, statuesque figure without any attempt at subtlety. "Not bad at all," the Grandmaster remarked approvingly. He turned to the scavenger who had delivered the captive, a female warrior. "Is it female?" "It appears so," the scavenger replied. This woman was no ordinary bounty hunter. She was Valkyrie, once a member of the Valkyrie, now living in exile on Sakaar under the alias of a scrapper. Her build was powerful and athletic, her features sharp and battle-worn. Leon's attention lingered on her for a moment. In another timeline, she would stand beside Thor against Hela, goddess of death. On Sakaar, however, she was simply a scavenger collecting prizes for the Grandmaster's games. An interesting piece on the board. The Grandmaster turned back to Leon. "What do you think?" Leon withdrew his gaze and replied casually, "Can you give her to me?" "Oh." The Grandmaster grinned. "You like her?" "Like is a strong word. Let's just say, I'm interested." Though the Grandmaster had long since outgrown mortal appetites, he understood the implication well enough. Entertainment came in many forms. "It's possible," he said, "but this prize belongs to the scavenger. Sakaar has rules. You must compensate her to her satisfaction." Leon nodded. "Fair enough. What do you want?" Valkyrie studied him. This was the first time she had negotiated directly with someone other than the Grandmaster. "A proper weapon," she said at last. "Something worthy." Leon raised a hand. From his system storage space, a *S of raw, liquid adamantium emerged, shimmering in midair. "A blade," she specified. "Heavy.
Broad.
Like this." Her gestures were rough, but Leon understood. Telekinesis shaped the molten adamantium into form within seconds. A *sieve, cleaver-like longsword forged in a single seamless piece, broad as a door panel and gleaming silver. Valkyrie took it and squeezed with all her strength. It did not so much as dent. A slow smile crossed her face. "Thank you." With a short bow to both Leon and the Grandmaster, she turned and strode out, clearly eager to test her new weapon in the arena. Once she had gone, the Grandmaster spread his hands. "She's yours now." He tossed Leon the controller to the neural obedience disc fastened around Supergiant's neck. Leon caught it easily and stepped forward, lifting her chin with a finger. When Supergiant saw his face clearly, her expression changed dramatically. "Leon Stark?" "Oh." He smiled faintly. "You know me? You are?" "Homelander," she whispered. Leon's smile widened slightly. "You are now my slave," he said calmly. "So, why don't you explain yourself to your new master?" "Impossible," she snapped. "I serve only one master. The great Titan." That reminds me," the Grandmaster interrupted suddenly. He rose and took his execution staff, the so-called pardon staff, from Topaz. Only then did Supergiant notice another captive beside her, an alien man dressed far too elegantly to be a mere slave. I'm sorry, the man stammered, trembling. Please. I'm afraid rules are rules, the Grandmaster said pleasantly. So, I pardon you. Thank you. The staff's glowing tip brushed lightly against the man's body. He disintegrated instantly into a puddle of blue liquefied remains, his scream cut short, leaving behind a foul stench. The Grandmaster handed the staff back to Topaz and resumed his seat. Do continue, he said, resting his chin on his hand as if watching a show. Oh, and by the way, any disobedient slave on Sakaar receives the same pardon. He winked at Leon. Supergiant swallowed. The sight of the execution had stripped away any lingering defiance. You are my only master, she said quickly, lowering her head in submission. She had once followed Thanos for a single promise, that he would grant her the death she desired. But she had no intention of dying like that. Leon patted her cheek lightly, smiling. That's better. With a casual squeeze, he crushed the magnetic restraints binding her to the chair, then hoisted her over his shoulder and strode toward the luxurious presidential suite the Grandmaster had prepared for him. That's it, the Grandmaster said in disappointment. I expected more resistance. There are surveillance feeds in the room, Topaz reminded him flatly. The Grandmaster gasped theatrically. Topaz, are you trying to get me killed? Remove them immediately. Leon is an honored guest. Yes. Topaz's expression did not change in the slightest. Number 182. Leon interrogates Supergiant. As soon as he entered the suite, Leon's first action, regardless of whether any were present, was to hack and disable all potential surveillance devices. He had no intention of becoming someone else's live entertainment. Only after confirming the room was secure did he begin his interrogation. What's your name? Sue. Supergiant. And your relationship with Thanos? He is my mast. A soft hum escaped Leon's throat. No, I have no relation to him. I once served as a member of the Black Order. You are my master now. That's more like it. He patted her cheek lightly, satisfied. How did you end up here? Did Thanos sign you a mission? Cull Obsidian went missing. Thanos sent me to find him. That's it. That's it. Leon frowned slightly. He had expected something more substantial. The interrogation continued, merciless, relentless. At last, Supergiant's composure shattered. Damn it, she gasped. Just kill me. No, Leon replied calmly. You're my slave. You die only when I allow it. He leaned back comfortably, hands behind his head. So, my dear, is there anything else you'd like to tell me? I don't know. Her words were slurred, her strength nearly gone. Is that so? His voice cooled. Perhaps I've been too gentle. Moments later, her cyan skin had flushed crimson, her body trembling violently. Her screams faded into ragged breaths. She collapsed, barely conscious, her life flickering like a candle in the wind. Then, the Power Stone. Leon's eyes sharpened. What? Thanos has obtained the Power Stone. I delivered it personally. Before she could finish, both mind and body reached their limit. Her eyes rolled back, and she lost consciousness. Leon stepped toward the panoramic window overlooking Sakaar. Outside, a Civ holographic projection of the Grandmaster towered above the city. Thanos already has the Power Stone? What was Peter Quill doing? He paused. No. It might not be Quill's failure. Perhaps his own growing influence had accelerated events. If Thanos sensed a looming threat, securing the orb ahead of schedule would be the logical move. The Power Stone was, after all, the Infinity Stone most aligned with Thanos' destructive philosophy. But Leon was not concerned. Space, mind, time, and the Reality Stone, soon to deliver itself. 4 Infinity Stones stood on his side. Thanos holding only the Power Stone changed little. The tension in Leon's chest faded. He stretched slightly, relaxed. Behind him stood Death herself as a silent safeguard. His body was protected by the War God's shield and the Courage shield. He could draw upon 4 Infinity Stones at any moment. Even his allies had the security of resurrection through his system-linked safeguards. And if the worst came to Pa***, then he would simply fall into death's embrace and begin again. Leon stood before the floor-to-ceiling window, arms spread wide.
Ah.
All praise to death. Later, Leon arrived at the Grand Arena's ultra-VIP section, an arm casually wrapped around a thoroughly subdued supergiant. The Grandmaster was in the midst of a theatrical speech. Down below in the arena stood Thor, fully armored, but without Mjolnir. Tony Stark lounged nearby, draped over the couch with an alien beauty at his side. Across from him sat Loki. Mjolnir rested firmly on Loki's lap, pinning him in place and preventing him from moving. Leon raised a brow. What did I miss? Number 183. Thor's flash of insight. Will he win? What happened? Leon sat down in the center of the sofa near Tony, an arm loosely around the silent supergiant. She obediently fed him slices of alien fruit, her earlier defiance nowhere to be seen. Tony jerked his chin toward Loki, clearly enjoying himself. Loki said the arena fights were boring. Started mouthing off about God of Hammers and can you even fight without it?
And
Here we are. Loki shrugged helplessly. Mjolnir rested firmly on his lap. It didn't feel particularly heavy, but it might as well have been rooted to the fabric of reality. Like a metaphysical anchor, it held him completely in place. No matter how he strained, he couldn't budge it an inch. That's very on brand, Leon said with a grin, making no move whatsoever to help him. The Grand Arena of Sakaar. The arena was the most popular structure on Sakaar, Grandmaster's proudest invention. The hemispherical open-air coliseum was packed to capacity, the roar of the crowd deafening. Above the arena floor, thousands of drones projected a towering 100-meter hologram of the Grandmaster into the night sky, complete with immersive surround sound. Thor volunteering to fight? For someone like the Grandmaster, who lived for spectacle, it was perfect. Look at you all, he beamed. Magnificent performance. Beautiful evening. Are you having fun? I am your host, Grandmaster. Let's hear that applause. The audience erupted. And now, no more delays. The main event begins. Tonight, we welcome a special challenger. First appearance, but do not underestimate him. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the God of Thunder, Thor Odinson. The steel gate on one side of the arena lifted. Thor stepped out in full Asgardian armor. In his hand was a heavy axe hammer forged from Sakaran metal, a crude but serviceable weapon. No enchantment, no special properties, just metal. The crowd booed immediately. Compared to the reigning champion, Thor looked small. Thor ignored them, scanning the VIP suite until his gaze locked on Loki. Wait and see, he muttered. The Grandmaster leaned forward excitedly. And now our champion. Smoke shells detonated above the arena, despite it being night. The ground trembled. Thor's expression shifted. Whatever casual confidence he had evaporated. Ladies and gentlemen, Grandmaster shouted, barely containing his glee. Our defending champion, unmatched, unstoppable, invincible. Give it up for Obsidian. A monstrous roar drowned out the crowd. Before the Civ steel gate could fully open, a gigantic gray-black arm tore it apart. Nearly 3 meters tall, shield on one arm and war axe in the other, Obsidian leapt forward and landed before Thor with seismic force. In the Ultra VIP suite, Supergiant suddenly sprang to her feet. Yes, Obsidian, a fellow member of the Black Order. The very one Thanos had sent her to locate. Hope flared in her eyes. This is my chance. Smack. Getting excited? Leon asked mildly. She winced, immediately sitting back down in his arms. Yes, my master. Under Leon's calm, watchful gaze, she confessed everything. Obsidian status within the Black Order. His role under Thanos. Leon listened idly, a finger brushing lightly across her lips. 3 down. Ebony Maw.
Supergiant.
Obsidian. Thanos hadn't even shown himself yet, and his Black Order had already lost 3 pillars. How unfortunate. Nice! Loki suddenly shouted, eyes glued to the arena. Leon followed his gaze. Thor, without Mjolnir, had miscalculated. Kull had grabbed him by the ankle and was slamming him into the ground like a rag doll. Even the Grandmaster blinked in confusion at Loki's enthusiasm. Isn't that your brother? I love this game, Loki declared. He never listened to father. A little humility will do him good. Grandmaster cackled. Then he's in for a lesson. Kull Obsidian is my strongest champion. The beating. Thor tried to recover, but the strength gap was undeniable. Kull's brute force overwhelmed him before his combat skill could compensate. When the slamming stopped, Thor lay spread-eagle in a crater, struggling to breathe. Kull leapt and landed directly on top of him. His fists crashed down again and again.
Boom, boom, boom.
Blood mixed with dust across Thor's face. In the VIP suite, Tony subtly began manipulating magnetic fields, trying to create interference around Kull. Leon casually caught Tony's wrist with invisible telekinesis and shook his head. Tony exhaled, standing down. Below, Thor clenched his fists. For a fleeting moment, he considered breaking the rules, calling Mjolnir. But before the thought fully formed, everything went white. The vision, a vast, luminous void. Countless fallen warriors surrounded him, echoes of Valhalla. And then, Odin, not as the All-Father upon a throne, but as an aging father nearing the end of his journey. His golden armor was gone. He wore simple clothing, like an old traveler. Only the eye patch remained. Thor stared at him. Father? Number 184. Juggernaut Drive, the awakening of thunder. It's starting. It's begun. He's about to die. Almost dead. Countless indistinct voices echoed around Thor, neither fully male nor female, like spirits whispering from beyond. Father? Where am I? This is the boundary between life and death, Odin replied. This is where Asgard's fallen warriors gather. Thor, I regret to say, you are about to join Valhalla. Valhalla? Thor's pulse spiked. He had only been fighting Kull Obsidian. How had it come to this? No, I can't die. Mjolnir? He raised his hand. Nothing answered. It is too late, Odin said quietly.
No.
Father, you must have a way. Thor's voice trembled. He was not ready. Not like this. Thor. Odin's voice boomed with restrained fury. Look at yourself. A single brute has shattered your confidence. He's too strong. Without Mjolnir, I'm nothing. Thor dropped to one knee, grief and frustration choking him. Odin stepped closer. Without your hammer, you are nothing, he asked. Are you the god of hammers? Thor looked up. That hammer was never the source of your power, Odin continued. It helped you focus, to control what was already yours. But it's too late, Thor said hoarsely. I'm dying. Odin smiled faintly. No, this is only the beginning, god of thunder. With a single motion of his hand, Thor vanished from the white expanse. The surrounding spirits dissolved as well. Soon, only Odin remained. He turned his lone eye toward a patch of mist far denser than the rest. You may step out now, Leon. The fog parted. Leon emerged. Hard to hide from you, father-in-law. This place was the boundary between Valhalla and reality. As master of another spiritual dominion of his own, Leon possessed limited authority to observe such thresholds. Odin studied him for a moment. Then, the vision faded. Back in the arena, Thor's eyes snapped open. Blue-white lightning erupted from his body, flooding the arena in blinding radiance. His irises burned pure white.
Boom.
A surge of thunder exploded outward. Thor drove a single punch into Kull Obsidian's chest and sent the Civ warrior flying. He rose slowly. Electricity pooled in his palms like liquid plasma, crackling and alive. The power was there. It had always been there. Even without Mjolnir, he was still the god of thunder. Kull roared and charged. Thor leapt, body seemingly dissolving into lightning. They collided midair, and Kull was blasted away again with a casual strike. The arena fell silent. Then, thunder, thunder, thunder. The chant shifted. The crowd changed allegiance instantly. Up in the VIP suite, the Grandmaster shot to his feet. What are you doing?
Get up.
You can't lose. Obsidian struggled. His gaze flickered upward, toward the VIP box.
He saw Supergiant.
Recognition flared. But before he could act, Thor descended like a bolt from the heavens and drove him into the arena floor. The tide had fully turned. Punch after punch rained down. The earlier humiliation repaid. The Grandmaster fumbled for the control device of the obedience disc, then froze. Thor wasn't wearing one. He could only watch helplessly. In the VIP suite, Master. Supergiant gently tugged Leon's arm. Yes. Leon regarded her with amusement, fingers idly tracing along her waist before lifting her chin. Could you spare Obsidian? She whispered close to his ear. He is valuable. I can ensure his loyalty to you. She meant it, but not purely out of strategy. For reasons she could not understand, her telepathy and psychic corruption abilities were suppressed. Completely unusable. Without them, she was reduced to physical strength alone, formidable but insufficient. Obsidian, for all his lack of subtlety, was dependable muscle. Right now, he was the only one she dared rely on. Leon's expression did not change. Below, Thor stood bathed in lightning. Above, Supergiant waited for judgment. The god of thunder had awakened. And so had the board. Number 185. Thor, a strike to shake the stars. Idealism is beautiful. Reality is not. Thor's awakening did not merely turn the tide, it ended the fight. With a single, bare-handed storm surge, Thor summoned a torrent of sky-splitting lightning. The bolt struck Obsidian head-on. When the thunder faded, nothing remained but a charred skeleton. Bone fragments clattered across the arena floor. The Grandmaster stared for a full 2.5 seconds before forcing himself to speak. The winner of this glorious contest is Thor Odinson. The arena erupted.
Thor.
Thor. Thor. In the VIP suite, Supergiant stared at the scattered remains. It's over. Her last reliable ally was gone. Below, Thor completed his victory lap, soaking in the crowd's adoration. Then he leapt dozens of meters upward and landed in the Ultra VIP suite. He looked directly at the Grandmaster.
So,
Valkyrie is mine now. The Grandmaster's smile twitched. He disliked losing, but Leon was seated beside him. And, awakened, Thor was clearly no minor threat. Yes, he admitted reluctantly. Scrapper 142 belongs to you. This had been their private wager. After seeing Leon acquire Supergiant through trade, Thor had adapted. Learning quickly that the Grandmaster loved gambling, he'd leveraged Loki's taunts into a bet. If Thor won, he claimed Valkyrie. And now the debt had come due. Topaz, the Grandmaster sighed. Bring him his prize. Moments later, Valkyrie was led in. A neural obedience disc was secured at her neck. A restraint tether, made of some advanced Sakaar alloy, kept her under control. She shot Thor a murderous glare. She's my finest scrapper, the Grandmaster lamented theatrically, dabbing at non-existent tears. Always brought me the best prizes. He waved them off and allowed Topaz to will him away in exaggerated heartbreak. Tony stood. Good luck, Thor, he said with a knowing smirk. Don't let a woman intimidate you. Leon rose as well, an arm around Supergiant. He gave Valkyrie a playful wink. You too. Thor blinked. Wait. That's not what this is about. I'm not. But the Stark brothers were already gone. You touch me, and I'll kill you, Valkyrie growled. Thor paused. Something in her defiance sparked. A dangerous grin spread across his face. He was not some timid prince. Outside Asgard, Thor Odinson had never exactly lived like a monk. And technically, Valkyrie hadn't lived in Asgard for years. Close enough. You're bold, Thor said. She stepped back. He pulled the tether. Then, without ceremony, he hoisted her over his shoulder and strode toward his quarters. No matter how she struggled, awakened Thor did not budge. Let me go. I have a partner. You idiot. Odinson men, are all the same. Her protests echoed down the corridor. Back in the VIP suite, Loki's grin slowly faded as he looked down at Mjolnir still pinning him in place. Brother? No answer. Thor was otherwise occupied. Loki muttered something bitter under his breath. Mjolnir responded with a crackle of lightning. Moments later, Loki sat smoking lightly, hair frizzed, finally silent. I always suffer the most, he muttered. Elsewhere, Thor's confidence wavered for exactly 1 second. Valkyrie had been a legendary warrior before he was even born. That realization hit hard. Smack. Is that all? She mocked, tapping his cheek with open disdain. For a god of thunder, you're underwhelming. Thor inhaled sharply. For Asgard, lightning flared around him. If brute strength alone wasn't enough, then he would combine it with divine power. Thunder rumbled. Energy surged. A strike. A force. A surge of stormlight meant to pierce the heavens themselves. Number 186. The Grandmaster questions his existence. After knocking Supergiant unconscious, Leon quietly met up with Tony, who had likewise rendered his own companion unconscious. The two brothers moved in perfect coordination. Leon distorted light completely, rendering them invisible. Tony regulated surrounding temperature and electromagnetic fluctuations, blending them seamlessly into the environment. Layered atop that was Leon's dual biofield concealment. By the time dawn broke, without a single soul noticing, Sakaar had effectively fallen. Nearly every electrically powered system on the planet had been activated through the Allspark. Vehicles,
Drones.
infrastructure, arena mechanisms, all converted into Leon's Cybertronian forces. To Tony, even after repeated exposure, the Allspark remained absurdly overpowered. He could only be grateful it was in Leon's hands. The next morning, after an entire night of covert planetary takeover, Leon returned to his room and promptly woke Supergiant for a second round of interrogation. She very nearly collapsed. Leon, however, had no intention of being gentle. She had longed for death. He was merely accommodating her wish. The luncheon invitation. Later, Leon, Tony, Thor, and Loki were invited to dine with the Grandmaster. I sat there for an entire day and night. Loki exploded at Thor, who had only just regained his freedom. Thor shrugged. And Loki lunged. Thor casually held him back with one hand, until 2 streaks of silver flashed for vulnerable targets. Thor instantly pivoted, hands moving to guard himself. The twin blades, lion's fangs, returned to Loki's grip. Have you lost your mind? Thor snapped. Loki merely smirked and sheathed the weapons back into his magic storage. As he said Thor, he muttered coolly. And Thor exhaled sharply. Leon and Tony exchanged amused looks and followed them to the dining hall. The proposal. After lunch, the Grandmaster leaned forward eagerly. You are in luck. Today is my birthday. There will be a grand race. Why not participate? Leon did not waste time. What are we wagering? The Grandmaster's smile widened. The ultimate winner shall receive any wish within my power to grant. And the losers? Leon pressed. The Grandmaster's eyes opened slightly. The losers remain as my gladiators. Silence fell over the table. You all have the potential to earn statues in the Tower of Champions, the Grandmaster continued, then pointed at Loki. Accept him. What? Loki snapped. Before he could stand, the armrests and legs of his chair reshaped into heavy restraints, locking him in place. Simultaneously, Leon, Tony, and Thor experienced the same. The restraints carried suppressive properties, dampening their power signatures. No wonder the Grandmaster dared to show his hand. This, Leon said calmly, is your idea of hospitality? Insurance, the Grandmaster replied lightly. Your power is disruptive. He took the disintegration staff from Topaz and approached Leon directly. Especially you, my idol. Have you decided? If you refuse, I will have to pardon you. He stepped close enough that the staff's golden sphere hovered inches from Leon's chest. One touch, the Grandmaster said softly. Leon met his gaze. If I win, you grant any wish? Including that staff and rule over Sakaar? Yes, the Grandmaster said eagerly. Anything. Leon lowered his head as though contemplating. The Grandmaster's eyes sparkled in anticipation. Then, Leon looked up. I refuse. The smile fell. You would die over this? The Grandmaster demanded. There are countless beautiful women in the universe. Leon cut him off. One of my favorite things in life, he said evenly, is telling someone who believes they've already won. No. Silence. The Grandmaster's expression flattened. Very well. He raised the staff. I pardon your life. With theatrical force, he drove the golden orb against Leon's chest.
Clang.
Nothing happened. The Grandmaster blinked. In his imagination, Leon had already melted into slurry. Reality disagreed. Leon remained seated.
Calm.
Intact. The staff's golden sphere emitted a confused hum. The Grandmaster tilted his head slowly. Number 187. Overrunning Sakaar and the cursed mask. Once failing might be a malfunction. That was how the Grandmaster comforted himself. He pulled the disintegration staff back slightly, like resetting a save point, and jabbed it into Leon's chest again.
Clang.
Nothing. He forced a smile. I have never misfired before. These 2 times must be anomalies. Behind Leon, the spirit form of Iron Siga, the war god's shield, rested protectively against the courage shield, silently observing the spectacle. Leon said nothing. The Grandmaster, flustered, suddenly spun and tapped the staff against a fully armored guard. Instant liquefaction. The soldier dissolved into steaming slurry. There, the Grandmaster declared triumphantly. It works perfectly. The remaining guards didn't even flinch. The staff hummed normally, which made it worse. The Grandmaster turned back to Leon. Another strike.
Clang.
Still nothing. Leon offered him a sympathetic smile. Performance anxiety happens. Maybe try again next life. The air split. Yoarha Unit 2B materialized beside Leon and seized the disintegration staff from the Grandmaster's hand. The guards reacted. Too slow. Holy Spear unseal. In close combat mode, a 49-meter beam blade carved across the hall in a single sweep. Silence followed. Bodies separated cleanly at the waist. Structural pillars collapsed. The palace tilted. Through falling debris and cascading stone, Leon remained seated, hands resting calmly on the armrests. The restraints had already retracted. 2B. At his command, she shifted to ranged configuration. A single blast cleared the collapsing ceiling above them. Even the clouds parted under the shockwave, sunlight spilling down onto Leon's faint smile. Now, Leon said, taking the staff from 2B, it is my turn to pardon you. Telekinesis seized the Grandmaster mid-retreat and dragged him forward. No, 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 no. He flailed dramatically in midair, even attempting an awkward backward swim. It didn't help. The golden sphere touched him. The Grandmaster dissolved instantly into a puddle of viscous residue. His final words. Oh, I'm melting.
Sakaar falls.
Someone screamed. The Grandmaster is dead. The chaos erupted. Topaz attempted to flee. Leon closed his fist. She compressed into a crimson smear. A rebel raised a blaster. The weapon transformed mid-aim and fired into its owner instead. Panic died quickly. Across Sakaar, Leon's newly awakened Cybertronian forces activated. Countless minor machines, drones, vehicles, infrastructure nodes shifted into autonomous forms. Sheer numbers overwhelmed resistance. The Grandmaster's elite fighter squadron transformed as well. Lacking inspiration, Leon simply designated the lead unit Megatron, its wingman Starscream, and left the rest unnamed. Within hours, Sakaar belonged to him, mahjong among ruins. With nothing left to conquer, Leon, Tony, Thor, and Loki gathered beside what remained of the Grandmaster and set up a table. Mahjong tiles forged from adamantium. Table and chairs constructed of vibranium. One rule. No powers. No precognition. No manipulation. Only luck.
Who?
Who again? Again. Loki won. And won. And kept winning. Leon monitored him the entire time. No illusions. No magic. No sleight of hand. Pure, outrageous luck. Strip, Loki ordered smugly. They weren't gambling money. They were gambling dignity. Soon, Leon, Tony, and Thor were down to their last layer. Tony leaned toward Leon. You sure he's not cheating? Leon sighed. If anyone were cheating, it would be me. Thor grinned and complied first. Tony followed. Leon rose last. As he unsealed his weapon, Loki's smirk faltered. The atmosphere shifted dramatically. Regret bloomed. Before matters escalated further, Megatron descended in fighter configuration. Creator. Sakaar has been fully secured. Leon snapped his fingers, instantly changing attire. The disintegration staff spun idly in his hand. He looked toward the inverted crimson vortex hanging in the sky. The system interface appeared. Daily sign-in available. Proceed. Let's hope it's not junk this time, Leon muttered. Sign-in complete. Reward acquired. Cursed mask.
Cursed mask.
Once worn, cannot be voluntarily removed. Indestructible while worn. Can only be removed at the moment of imminent death. Upon removal, it shatters and disappears. Description. There is no turning back until death arrives. Leon's eyes narrowed slightly. Interesting. The Sakaar sign-ins had been mediocre overall, but acquiring the disintegration staff alone justified the trip. Even Thanos would not survive a direct strike from it. Without the combined absolute defenses of the War God's shield and Courage's shield, Leon himself would not risk tanking it either. Some artifacts simply did not obey logic. Chapter 187. Overrunning Sakaar and the Cursed Mask. Once failing might be a malfunction. That was how the Grandmaster comforted himself. He pulled the disintegration staff back slightly, like resetting a save point, and jabbed it into Leon's chest again.
Clang.
Nothing. He forced a smile. I have never misfired before. These 2 times must be anomalies. Behind Leon, the spirit form of Iron Siga, the War God's shield, rested protectively against the Courage's shield, silently observing the spectacle. Leon said nothing. The Grandmaster, flustered, suddenly spun and tapped the staff against a fully armored guard. Instant liquefaction. The soldier dissolved into steaming slurry. There, the Grandmaster declared triumphantly. It works perfectly. The remaining guards didn't even flinch. The staff hummed normally, which made it worse. The Grandmaster turned back to Leon. Another strike.
Clang.
Still nothing. Leon offered him a sympathetic smile. Performance anxiety happens. Maybe try again next life. The air split. Yoarha Unit 2B materialized beside Leon and seized the disintegration staff from the Grandmaster's hand. The guards reacted. Too slow. Holy Sphere unseal. In close combat mode, a 49-meter beam blade carved across the hall in a single sweep. Silence followed. Bodies separated cleanly at the waist. Structural pillars collapsed. The palace tilted. Through falling debris and cascading stone, Leon remained seated, hands resting calmly on the armrests. The restraints had already retracted. 2B. At his command, she shifted to ranged configuration. A single blast cleared the collapsing ceiling above them. Even the clouds parted under the shockwave, sunlight spilling down onto Leon's faint smile. Now, Leon said, taking the staff from 2B, it is my turn to pardon you. Telekinesis seized the Grandmaster mid-retreat and dragged him forward. No, 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 no. He flailed dramatically in midair, even attempting an awkward backward swim. It didn't help. The golden sphere touched him. The Grandmaster dissolved instantly into a puddle of viscous residue. His final words. Oh, I'm melting. Sakaar falls. Someone screamed. The Grandmaster is dead. Chaos erupted. Topaz attempted to flee. Leon closed his fist. She compressed into a crimson smear. A rebel raised a blaster. The weapon transformed mid-aim and fired into its owner instead. Panic died quickly. Across Sakaar, Leon's newly awakened Cybertronian forces activated. Countless minor machines, drones, vehicles, infrastructure nodes shifted into autonomous forms. Sheer numbers overwhelmed resistance. The Grandmaster's elite fighter squadron transformed as well. Lacking inspiration, Leon simply designated the lead unit Megatron, its wingman Starscream, and left the rest unnamed. Within hours, Sakaar belonged to him, mahjong among ruins. With nothing left to conquer, Leon, Tony, Thor, and Loki gathered beside what remained of the Grandmaster and set up a table. Mahjong tiles forged from adamantium, table and chairs constructed of vibranium. One rule: no powers, no precognition, no manipulation, only luck. Who again? Again, Loki won, and kept winning. Leon monitored him the entire time. No illusions, no magic, no sleight of hand. Pure, outrageous luck. Strip, Loki ordered smugly. They weren't gambling money. They were gambling dignity. Soon, Leon, Tony, and Thor were down to their last layer. Tony leaned toward Leon. You sure he's not cheating? Leon sighed. If anyone were cheating, it would be me. Thor grinned and complied first. Tony followed. Leon rose last. As he unsealed his weapon, Loki's smirk faltered. The atmosphere shifted dramatically. Regret bloomed. Before matters escalated further, Megatron descended in fighter configuration. Creator. Sakaar has been fully secured. Leon snapped his fingers, instantly changing attire. The disintegration staff spun idly in his hand. He looked toward the inverted crimson vortex hanging in the sky. The system interface appeared. Daily sign-in available. Proceed. Let's hope it's not junk this time, Leon muttered. Sign-in complete. Reward acquired. Cursed mask.
Cursed mask.
Once worn, cannot be voluntarily removed. Indestructible while worn. Can only be removed at the moment of imminent death. Upon removal, it shatters and disappears. Description: there is no turning back until death arrives. Leon's eyes narrowed slightly. Interesting. The Sakaar sign-ins had been mediocre overall, but acquiring the disintegration staff alone justified the trip. Even Thanos would not survive a direct strike from it. Without the combined absolute defenses of the War God's shield and Courage's shield, Leon himself would not risk tanking it either. Some artifacts simply did not obey logic. Number 188. Valkyrie. You've got to be kidding me. There wasn't much to pack. Leon kept only what truly mattered. The disintegration staff, too dangerous for anyone else to handle safely.
Supergiant.
And Valkyrie, though in her case, Thor handled the luggage. As for how that had gone, Leon had already reviewed the live feed courtesy of his Cybertronian network. The outcome had been decisive. Thor, post-awakening, had been overwhelming. One more thing of note. Thor had befriended Korg, just as in the original timeline. He invited Korg to leave Sakaar with them. But Korg declined for now. He wanted to remain behind and help stabilize Sakaar under Megatron's oversight. When things settle, Korg had said, I'll head to Asgard. Thor accepted that. Tony, meanwhile, had extracted and archived Sakaar's technological database into JRVIS's storage. He and Loki traveled light. Loki's pocket dimension magic proved especially convenient. Leon had no idea what exactly Loki kept in that spatial stash. Every time Loki scavenged, he cloaked the act with illusions.
Departure.
Megatron. Leon stood before Sakaar's Cybertronian leader. Even kneeling, the towering silver war form stood 2.5 times Leon's height. Leon had upgraded him personally, an adamantium-reinforced frame. Slightly less agile, but exponentially more durable. An unbreakable body, befitting a ruler. Sakaar is yours. Megatron's crimson optics glowed. My creator, he intoned, I will forge Sakaar into an impregnable stellar fortress and await your return. Leon nodded. Do well. Standard motivational rhetoric followed. Build vigor. Grow stronger. Dominate. Megatron looked ready to conquer galaxies. Tony's upgrade. Did you finish it?
Leon asked.
Tony tossed him a sleek silver collar etched with faint blue circuitry. Enhanced neural suppression device, Tony said smugly. Adamantium casing. Impossible to remove without my authorization. And if someone tries? He mimed an explosion. Micronuclear detonation. Very unpleasant. Leon snapped the collar onto Supergiant's neck without hesitation. You heard him. Yes, my master, she replied stiffly. Not sincere enough. Before she could react, Leon tapped her forehead. A microscopic tendril of living metal slipped beneath her skin and vanished into her neural pathways. Her expression shifted instantly. What did you do? Insurance. Leon smiled gently. If you disobey, your head explodes. If I die, your head also explodes. He said it conversationally. For the first time, Supergiant truly understood. It wasn't just physical restraint. It was the death of freedom. Her legs buckled, but Leon held her upright effortlessly, treating her more like an exotic pet than a former member of the Black Order. To him, loyalty was optional. Control was absolute. Through the devil's eye. With preparations complete, Leon enveloped the group in telekinesis and biofield shielding. They shot skyward, straight into the crimson vortex, known as the Devil's Eye. Reality distorted into a kaleidoscope of scarlet light. 2.5 seconds later, they emerged into open space. Far beyond Sakaar. Ahead of them floated a colossal crystalline landmass *S, planet-sized, radiant, majestic, like a throne suspended in the cosmos. Valkyrie froze. No way. Her voice trembled. The place where her life had begun. The place where it had nearly ended. Asgard. She whispered. I never thought I'd return. For a brief moment, the warrior within her resurfaced. Thor stepped forward, resting a hand on her shoulder. Running never solved anything. Emotion flickered across her face, then vanished. She turned and kicked him squarely. Don't get sentimental on me. Thor staggered, blinking. Leon watched quietly. Homecomings were rarely simple. Number 189. Parent or king? Don't touch me, you idiot. We had rules. Valkyrie shot Thor a warning glare. Thor only gave an awkward grin and raised his hands in surrender. They weren't exactly close. Allies, perhaps. Friends, barely. Seeing Thor get shut down, Loki snorted from the side. Puffed. Loki, you laughed. No, Loki replied instantly. I was remembering something pleasant. The shift in expression was seamless. Return to Asgard. At the Bifrost Bridge, Odin and Frigga were already waiting. Oh, my children. Frigga stepped forward and embraced each of them warmly, even Tony, whom she had never met before. Tony blinked, pleasantly surprised, then accepted the royal maternal hug with polite composure. Loki approached Odin next, hands clasped in front of him. Father, Loki. Odin interrupted calmly. I am aware of your actions on Midgard. So is Asgard. Loki's jaw tightened slightly. But, Odin continued, one matter does not erase another. You will still prove your reform to Asgard. Escaping imprisonment remains a fact. Return. Continue your sentence. In Asgard. Loki bowed his head. Yes. Internally, however, he calculated quickly. Exile commuted to supervised service. Not ideal, but survivable. A victory of sorts. Valkyrie. Odin turned toward Valkyrie. She avoided his gaze at first, then straightened. She owed him nothing. If you have returned, Odin said evenly, then you are aware of Hela. Father, Thor interjected, why did you never tell me? About her, or about the Valkyrie? Hela and Ragnarok are bound together, Odin replied. Knowledge carries weight. For the young, too much of it becomes a burden. He gazed toward the horizon. But now that you know of her, Ragnarok draws near. Thor stiffened. Ragnarok? So soon? Beside him, Loki's faint smile vanished. He had only just begun rebuilding his future. He would not let it end in cosmic fire. Sir, Loki said suddenly. Thor's eyes widened. Yes, sir. If Ragnarok depends on him, then we stop him first. Without the eternal flame, he's nothing. I'll kill him myself. For once, the Odinson brothers stood united. For Asgard. Odin did not discourage them. You may try. That was permission enough. Thor seized Tony. Loki grabbed Leon. Heimdall. Thor called. Open the Bifrost to Muspelheim. The rainbow bridge flared. Wait, I'm coming too, Valkyrie shouted, leaping into the beam just before it closed. Only Frigga, Odin, Kayla, and Supergiant remained behind. Frigga studied Supergiant thoughtfully. My, what a striking figure, she mused, gently taking her hand. No wonder Leon keeps you close. Supergiant stood rigid, unsure whether she was being complimented or ****cessed. Muspelheim. They arrived almost instantly. A realm of molten rock and churning magma. The air reeked of sulfur. Ash blanketed the sky. Tony exhaled sharply. We couldn't have toured Asgard first? Sorry, Thor admitted. Ragnarok tends to motivate. Loki drew both lions' fangs, abandoning subtlety. Let's go. The four of us together? Unstoppable. A Civ lava beast erupted from the magma, a salamander-like creature over 10 meters long. Loki charged. 2 seconds later, he was swatted mid-strike and embedded into a volcanic wall in the shape of a rune. Leon and Thor didn't even blink. Valkyrie sighed. She launched 30 meters upward and drove her blade straight through the creature's skull, twisting cleanly. The beast collapsed. Efficient. Professional. She flicked molten residue from her blade and looked smugly at Thor, Leon, and Tony. Loki remained embedded in the wall. Suddenly, the ground trembled again. Behind you! Thor shouted, raising Mjolnir. Valkyrie turned. A second lava beast swallowed her whole. Thor froze. He couldn't unleash lightning at full power without risking her. The creature charged toward them, then abruptly convulsed mid-stride. Its eyes bulged. It collapsed at Thor's feet. Blades burst outward from its chest cavity. Valkyrie stepped out through the molten Karka ***S, unfazed. Forgot something, she said calmly. It's entirely magma. No vital points. Thor exhaled slowly. Of course. Leon watched in silence. Muspelheim burned around them. And somewhere deeper in the inferno, Surtur waited. Number 190. Surtur brief as a spark. After dealing with the salamander-like lava beast, Leon's group encountered wave after wave of molten creatures, catfish forms, serpentine coils, lizard shapes, burrowing drakes. They lacked individuality. They behaved less like independent organisms and more like immune cells of Muspelheim itself. White blood cells reacting to intrusion. Their blood was magma. Their forms were merely adaptive manifestations. Leon even suspected this might be Surtur's doing, primitive extensions of his will. If so, it wasn't unlike how Leon could create subordinate constructs through the eternal flame integrated within Iron-Sega. 2.5 hours later. Surtur, you coward. Get out here. Another magma drake collapsed under Valkyrie's blade. They had been fighting continuously. Surtur was hiding. His presence blended almost perfectly with the realm. Even Leon's enhanced perception failed to pinpoint him. Leon remembered how, in another timeline, Thor had baited Surtur into revealing himself. The fire giant claimed he could not die before fulfilling Ragnarok. But bravado rarely equaled truth. If it bleeds, it dies. Surtur would be no exception. Tony's experiment. Well, Leon asked. Tony hovered cross-legged midair, eyes closed. He opened them with a confident grin. He's not a magnetism ***S entity. He can hide heat signatures, but not planetary-scale magnetic disturbance. You found him, approximately. And I've got something new to test. Leon, Thor, and Loki immediately blinked backward dozens of meters. Valkyrie followed instinctively. Tony, Leon said gravely, your power is extremely dangerous. It requires caution. Cowards, Tony muttered. He picked up a chunk of volcanic rock. Magnetic fields coiled around it. At first, the rock levitated, despite not being metallic. Then it glowed. Then it melted. The magnetic flux became visible, oscillating, tightening. The molten ***S compressed further and further. Atoms struggled against containment. Energy spiked. Tony exhaled sharply.
Now.
He hurled the microscopic Ma**s forward as the magnetic field snapped into ignition. Then, he opened a micro-wormhole and reappeared directly behind Leon. Using me as cover again? Leon smirked. Tony shrugged. Detonation followed. A miniature sun ignited within Muspelheim. Blinding light consumed the horizon. The shockwave crashed outward, stopped only by Leon's telekinetic barrier. Deep below, Surtur felt the tremor. Damn lunatics. Before he could relocate, collapsing rock buried him beneath his throne, leaving only his flaming crown exposed like a mountain peak. Descent. Surprise. Leon carved a direct path downward with an atomic breath beam, dragging Thor and the others in his telekinetic wake. They emerged before the trapped fire giant. Son of Odin. Surtur roared. Son of a. Thor shot back mid-descent, Mjolnir blazing. He struck the fiery crown with full force. The impact echoed. No damage. Surtur laughed. Foolish child. Until destiny is fulfilled, until Ragnarok consumes Asgard, I am eternal. Then he noticed Leon's left arm. Iron Siga shimmered faintly with eternal flame resonance. You thief. Surtur thundered. That flame is mine. Leon tilted his head slightly. Is it? He gestured casually. The disintegration staff floated into his hand. For the first time, Surtur's expression changed. Wait. Don't come closer. Leon stepped forward anyway. Number 191. The Life Tablet, Kindred Spirits at First Sight. Surtur's defiance vanished the moment Leon stepped forward. Without hesitation, Leon pressed the disintegration staff against the fire giant's flaming crown, his true core. Nothing happened. Leon tapped the staff against his palm as if troubleshooting a glitch, then drove it down again. Still nothing. Surtur remained eerily calm. Too calm. Then he threw his head back and laughed. Ha ha ha. Neither you nor Odin can stop Ragnarok. It is written. I am Asgard's doom. And you as well, Odinson. His laughter echoed. And only then did his crown begin to dissolve. Flame, bone, and essence melted into viscous slurry. The staff had worked. Just slower. Against beings of Surtur's tier, its absolute lethality met resistance. Leon took note. If an entity of even higher order appeared, the staff might fail entirely. Still, Surtur was gone. That was enough. Aftermath. Thor exhaled in relief. That's it then? Ragnarok stopped. Maybe, Loki replied, frowning slightly. Surtur's final words unsettled him. Even if destiny could not be erased, perhaps it could be delayed. And delay meant opportunity. Tony folded his arms. That's the legendary harbinger of Ragnarok? I've seen worse. Valkyrie stepped forward and ground her heel into the dissolving remains. Pathetic. Thor winced slightly and instinctively rubbed his own face. Leon gestured. Let's head back. The molten beasts never reappeared. Their master had fallen. Returned to Asgard. Odin and Frigga were elsewhere upon their return. Thor escorted Loki to resume supervised labor. Valkyrie tagged along. After so long away, she knew few others. Leon, meanwhile, took Tony sightseeing. Everywhere they went, Lord Leon. The title echoed endlessly. Tony's ears nearly developed calluses. Next time, Tony muttered, I'm coming with Pepper. Without you, I can't experience anything normally. Leon only smiled. Then Tony paused. The Starforge. Show me. Odin's vault, the Life Tablet. Leon led Tony into Odin's vault, past relics and weapons of myth, until they stood before a fractured stone monument. The Life Tablet. Tony froze. Carved across its surface were equations, alien yet structured, elegant yet incomplete. What is this? He asked softly. A relic from Atlantis, Leon replied. An ancient Earth civilization. These markings are said to represent the equation of life. Supposedly, solving it grants limitless wisdom and overwhelming power. Tony frowned. If it's that powerful, why did Atlantis fall? Leon shrugged. Unknown.
Tony studied the slab.
It's incomplete. The fragment preserved only a fraction of the full formula. Even Tony Stark couldn't conjure mathematics from absence. No way to restore it with the time stone?
Tony asked.
I asked the Ancient One. Too ancient. Beyond her reach. Tony exhaled slowly. I can try. He didn't say impossible. That was enough for Leon. He photographed every inch of the tablet. Time was a resource Leon possessed in abundance. Tony possessed genius. Between them,
possibility.
Nidavellir meeting Eitri. At Tony's insistence, they traveled next to Nidavellir, realm of the dwarves. The clash of cosmic metallurgy and Stark-level engineering was immediate and electric. Tony and King Eitri spoke for hours. Forging techniques, stellar compression, energy containment. If not for the height difference and Pepper waiting back home, they might have talked for days. By the end of the feast, an agreement was made. Tony would return with blueprints of his own design. Leon would supply the materials. Eitri would ignite the Starforge to craft a weapon worthy of Stark. Nidavellir welcomes friends. Eitri boomed. Friends, the dwarves echoed. Tony, unexpectedly moved, promised to design a defensive system for their realm. A gift in return for their generosity. A quiet arrangement. Before departing, Leon discreetly left behind something. A contingency.
A surprise.
One day, when triggered, it would make both the dwarves and a certain purple warlord react in very different ways. And Leon was very much looking forward to that moment. Number 192. Return and Reckoning. After returning from Nidavellir, Leon had originally planned to seek out Odin and inquire further about the Life Tablet and the coming of Ragnarok. Unfortunately, Odin and Frigga had apparently gone off on vacation somewhere. No one could find them. Left with no choice, Leon and Tony returned to Earth first to report their safety. They would visit again another time. Malibu Mansion. Clifftop shoreline. The Bifrost flashed across the sky. Leon descended while holding Supergiant in one arm and carrying Valkyrie in the other. Just before touching down, he halted midair and hovered. Behind him, Tony, eyes shut, attempted a dramatic superhero landing. He plunged straight into the ocean.
Splash.
SK, urge. Can you be professional for once? How do you even misaligned the Bifrost? Tony rocketed out of the sea and shouted furiously at the direction where the rainbow light had vanished. The reason? The one responsible for teleporting them this time was none other than Scourge, the Asgardian security trainee, who had been practicing for all of 2.5 months. Tony. Leon. It was dusk on Earth. Half the sun had dipped below the horizon, casting golden ripples across the quiet sea. The moment Leon stepped off the Bifrost, Bast, stationed at Stark Tower, sensed his return. A portal opened beside the brothers. Pepper Potts strode through briskly, hurrying toward them. Leon and Tony summed she was coming in for a warm welcome home hug. Instead, thud, thud. Pepper delivered 2 fierce kicks, sending both brothers flying like cannonballs. They smashed straight through the land-facing wall of the Malibu mansion. Off to the side, Supergiant and Valkyrie stared in stunned silence. Who is this woman? And how is she so terrifying? After Pepper, Bast stepped gracefully through the portal, dressed in her signature black and white maid attire, holding the Mind Stone scepter in both hands. RC, a 2 mode, followed at her side. After being properly scolded, Pepper tugging their ears like misbehaving children, Leon vanished in a flash and reappeared, sweeping Bast and RC into his arms. He kissed each of them on the cheek, then delivered 2 affectionate Leon's grips. Bast, RC, I missed you so much. Did you miss me? They didn't answer verbally. Instead, each planted a soft kiss on one of his cheeks.
Warm. Sweet.
Decisive. Huh. Bast, why hasn't the portal closed yet? Leon glanced at the still-open gateway. Before Bast could respond, a long leg clad in sheer black stockings stepped through. Leon looked up. Denim shorts. A fitted, off-shoulder gray sweater. He didn't even need to see her face. Heh. Helen, you've grown again. With zero hesitation, Leon tossed Bast and RC aside to sit with Supergiant, then scooped Dr. Helen Cho up in a firm Leon's grip before she could react. Suspended midair, Helen instinctively wrapped her arms around his neck for balance. Almost reflexively, she kissed him. Halfway through, she suddenly remembered there were other people present. Rationality returned. She pulled back, cheeks flushed crimson, burying her face against his chest in ****. She had originally intended to complain about his disappearance. Instead, she'd lost the initiative completely. A catastrophic miscalculation.
Well.
Perhaps only half a loss.
Night.
Stark Tower. All members of the Avengers were gathered. Dressed in formal attire rarely worn, they toasted and mingled. Leon and Tony recounted parts of their experience on Sakaar, tactfully omitting any mention of the Allspark and the Transformers. Some advantages were better kept quiet. Anyway, we should really thank our Iron Superman here, Leon concluded. Otherwise, Bast would have teleported us back long ago. My fault, Tony replied, utterly unrepentant. If anything, Sakaar had left him exhilarated. He had evolved, grown stronger. Yeah, right. This is insane. You two go partying on an alien planet and don't bring me? Rhodey glanced at Supergiant, standing respectfully beside Leon, then at Valkyrie chatting with Bruce Banner. He was openly envious. Next time, definitely, Leon promised with a grin. After the storytelling and laughter, Steve Rogers approached Leon with a GLA**S of champagne. Leon, this may be long overdue, but I still want to thank you for pulling me out of the Arctic. And for showing up at the most critical moment, turning the tide against Ebony Maw and the Chitauri. He raised his GLA**S.
To you.
They clinked GLA**SES. Steve drained his in one go. Leon took a modest sip. It was my responsibility, Leon replied. I just wish I'd returned sooner. Leon, could you come here for a moment? Maria Hill, dressed in a fitted gray skirt and heels, lightly tugged at his sleeve and whispered near his ear. Excuse me. Leon finished his drink and followed Hill upstairs, to the rooftop.
Nick Fury was waiting.
Hill had intended to slip away after leading him there, but Leon caught her wrist and pulled her back. With a casual gesture, he condensed an entire set of crystalline ice sofas. Leon sat. Hill was gently guided to sit as well. He courteously gestured for Fury to take a seat. Fury merely stood there, feeling the frigid mist rising from the frozen furniture.
He shivered.
He strongly suspected Leon was doing this on purpose. After all, Hill at least had insulation. Something you need? Leon asked casually. He idly held Hill's hand, absent-mindedly tracing her fingers. It was something he'd always found curious. Women's hands seemed softer than men's. Even when slender, bones faintly visible beneath the skin, they somehow still felt warm and delicate. Soft enough that once he started, it was hard to stop. Number 193. Your underworld move hit straight to the gut. Go on, Fury. Have a seat. Why aren't you sitting? Let's just get to the point. Nick Fury's mouth twitched. He subtly stepped farther away before speaking. I knew the moment you got back, you'd start settling accounts with certain people. So, I prepared a list in advance. It includes every council member who approved the nuclear launch, and a few others who stirred the waters behind the scenes. Their level of involvement is all documented. As he spoke, Fury pulled a stiff paper file from his leather coat and flicked it toward Leon like a throwing knife. Leon didn't move. From behind him, two slender fingers reached out and caught it steadily. Bast stepped out of the shadows in her CLA**sick black and white maid attire. She accepted the file and knelt respectfully before Leon, acting as his living bookshelf, opening it and turning the pages for him one by one. Good girl. Leon held Maria Hill in one arm while casually stroking Bast's silver hair. His fingers brushed over the tip of her long, elfin ear. The sensation made her ear tremble faintly, but her hands holding the file remained perfectly steady. Let's see. There were several familiar names on the list. The most familiar of all, Alexander Pierce, current member of the World Security Council, serving concurrently as U.S. Secretary of Defense. the very man who had once brought Nick Fury into S.H.I.E.L.D. He also carried several identities well known to certain audiences: the biggest mole inside S.H.I.E.L.D., leader of HYDRA, handler of the Winter Soldier, architect of Project Insight. "You and Pierce are practically inseparable," Leon said with a meaningful smile. "And you're just handing him over like this?" "No," Fury replied calmly. "I simply compiled everyone involved. Whether punishment is necessary and how severe, that's for you to decide. If I excluded Pierce because we're close, that might make things more dangerous for him later, wouldn't it?" He met Leon's gaze steadily. After the Battle of New York, Fury had reached a conclusion. Serving Leon was like serving a tiger. In Fury's eyes, Leon's presence now sat at the same table as Captain Marvel in terms of both danger and assurance. A little humility and deference in exchange for planetary security? That was acceptable. Fury's official accusation against Pierce was straightforward. As Secretary of Defense, he had failed to mobilize military reinforcements for New York and allowed the nuclear proposal to **s. Fury understood Leon well. In Leon's worldview, inaction at a critical moment was also a crime. Better to sell out his old friend now than wait for Leon to investigate and **s judgment later. Even now, Fury believed he was protecting Pierce in his own way. Meanwhile, Pierce was quietly plotting how to remove Fury from the board altogether. With Project Insight nearing completion, Fury, its public overseer, was becoming an inconvenience to a man who intended to use it for global signation and rule through fear. "You've been thoughtful, Fury. I'll handle it." Leon rose from the ice crystal sofa and left without further discussion, arm around Hill, returning downstairs to resume the celebration. Bast, currently one of the Avengers' top combatants, second only to Leon, Tony, and Thor, remained impeccably dressed in her maid uniform, following faithfully behind him. No matter the time or place, she executed every order, without hesitation. An exceptionally dangerous personal attendant. After Leon left, Fury cautiously examined the large sofa beside him. It no longer felt quite as cold. He tentatively sat down.
Crash.
The ice shattered instantly upon contact, dumping Fury onto the floor. Motherphew. I knew it. The next day, when Leon awoke on his **sieve bed, large enough to accommodate 25 people comfortably, it was already afternoon. The bed had been yesterday's daily sign-in reward. Under optimal circumstances, Leon had decided to put it to immediate use. Warm golden sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a glow over his sculpted physique, like a Greek statue carved from living marble. Helen?
Eve?
Sharon Carter?
Christine?
Supergiant?
RC?
2B?
Bast.
Master, I'm here. Leon lazily reached out beside him. Empty. Too comfortable to open his eyes, he called out each name. Only Bast responded. A sweep of observation hockey confirmed it. The enormous bed contained only him, sprawled in a starfish pose. Bast emerged from the bathroom wrapped in a white bath towel, silver hair tied into a bun, droplets of water still clinging to her skin. She moved silently to the bedside and knelt, looking up at him attentively. "Just you? Where's everyone else?" "Eve and Sharon Carter are handling company operations. Christine has returned to the newsroom to publish coverage of Captain Homelander and Iron Superman's return. Supergiant, RC, and 2B are in Dr. Cho's laboratory. Tony is there as well." She added the last line deliberately.
Oh.
Leon extended his perception toward Helen Cho's lab. Tony was there, working on the Mark VI armor, hammering and tinkering aggressively. A faint, unpleasant sensation, like sympathetic dental pain, rippled through Leon's mind via the portion of living adamantium integrated into the armor. Hiss. He immediately severed the connection. With a backward flip and perfect superhero landing, Leon sprang out of bed. He attempted a dramatic instant transformation, but Iron-Siga malfunctioned. No 1-second suit-up. Instead, Leon stood in full Emperor's New Clothes mode, unconsciously striking a thinker-like pose while facing Bast. Oh. Master, and made locked eyes. Ironsiga floated lazily out of the bathroom, a trace of white foam still clinging to its surface. Under Leon's darkened expression, the shield drifted casually forward, then, with drunken precision, slipped directly into Bast's bathrobe. Silence. The air froze. The world flickered blue. Reality skipped a frame. In the next instant, Ironsiga appeared properly affixed to Leon's left wrist, initiating full armor deployment in 1 smooth second. Dr. Helen Cho's laboratory. At the center of the room stood the completed regeneration cradle, sleek and silver-black, connected to numerous external cables. Nearby stood Tony and his independently mounted Mark VI armor. When Leon arrived via portal, stroking Bast now in her small, Hakimi form, Tony was in the middle of a forceful deconstruction attempt on the living adamantium Mark VI, a *cyst by RC, a 2-mode, and 2B. Supergiant, meanwhile, had been restrained to a metal surgical table, hands and feet bound, eyes vacant, as if she had been left there for quite some time. Dr. Cho sat before a monitor, rapidly typing. On screen was an entirely new 3D armor design, sleek, seamless, fully integrated. Unlike the bulky muscular silhouette of the previous Mark VI, this version looked form-fitting, almost slender, like a tailored combat suit. But Iron Man, what are you all doing? With a flick of telekinesis, Leon freed Supergiant from the table. The moment she touched the floor, she threw herself into his arms, trembling. Bast was squeezed awkwardly to the side, her feline face flattening in mild resignation. Master, you're finally here, they're all demons. Supergiant's eyes shimmered with tears as she complained pitifully. It was hard to believe this was once the domineering member of the Black Order who bowed to no one. Look what they'd turned her into. Number 194. A tribute to the legendary handcrafting immortal, Leon Stark. As it turned out, Tony wanted to upgrade the neural inhibitor collar around Supergiant's neck into a nanostructured system capable of seamlessly integrating beneath the skin. It would serve 2 purposes. First, as a practical experiment for future nano-armor feasibility. Second, it would make the device more aesthetically pleasing and convenient for Supergiant herself. When she didn't want it visible, it could retract beneath the skin. When she did, it could reconstruct into a full collar around her neck. Functional and stylish. After the trip to Sakaar, Tony had come to deeply resent one thing: storage. For safety reasons, especially with the Grandmaster around, he had barely removed the Mark VI armor. He wore it everywhere. It had almost begun to feel like it was growing into his flesh. That lingering sensation was disturbing enough that the moment he returned to Earth, he skipped even arguing with Pepper and immediately began developing Mark VII from scratch. He had once thought Mark VI would last him a lifetime. Clearly, he had been wrong. Necessity breeds innovation. Fortunately, Dr. Helen Cho's regeneration cradle was now complete. The 3D bio-nanotissue printing technology within it could be adapted directly for metallic nano-A*semly research. Tony had no psychological burden borrowing from Helen's work. After all, they were practically family now. Courtesy of Leon. Leon, perfect timing, Tony said. I've redesigned the neural inhibitor system. It's no longer limited to a collar form. All that's missing is your material. This kind of failsafe needs the toughest substance available. Supergiant's abilities are far too dangerous otherwise. Only someone as reckless as you would casually keep her at your side. If you want to use her as your lab rat, just say so. My living adamantium isn't strictly necessary, Leon replied coolly. And how do you know I don't have other safeguards in place? He tilted Supergiant's chin upward, forcing her to meet his eyes. Isn't that right, dear? Supergiant froze for half a second, then nodded frantically like a pecking chicken, swearing loyalty with her entire being. Leon said east. She would never go west. Leon commanded obedience. She would comply, without hesitation. You win. Tony gave Leon a thumbs-up of reluctant admiration. While living adamantium inside, Leon functioned almost like living nanometal. Outside his body, it was far less responsive. Without active focus, autonomous flight was already considered advanced usage. But if it could be restructured into fully independent nanomolecular systems capable of forming mechanical components based on user intent, anyone wielding it would ascend to another level entirely. Let alone Tony Stark.
All right.
Show me the blueprint. Leon gently patted Supergiant with a REA asterisk, suring Leon's grip before extending his hand toward Tony. Let's start small, Tony replied, swiveling around from the Mark 6. Upgrading the inhibitor system is necessary. He cupped his hands theatrically and called out, Dr. Helen Cho, please. Helen, since when were you into mechanical design? Leon stepped behind her, resting his hands on her slightly stiff shoulders and beginning a casual sage. I'm not that impressive, Helen said softly. I'm just refining the nanomolecular arrangement. The device and the new armor design are Tony's work. I'm a *sisting. Leon's hands carried a peculiar warmth and precision, firm yet controlled. Helen's eyes fluttered briefly closed, forcing herself to remain composed. Fortunately, Leon stopped at just the right moment. Before she reached her limit. In every sense, Helen exhaled quietly, steadying herself before projecting the neural nano-inhibitor blueprint onto the main screen.
There was no fixed collar shape.
It was simply a cluster of programmable nanometal molecules, formless, adaptive. I see. Activating absolute thought acceleration, Leon analyzed the uniform molecular-based structures in microscopic detail. Without drawing attention, he subtly adjusted Helen's chair angle, just enough that her back faced the rest of the lab. Out of sight from the others. Leon raised his left hand, fingers spreading to their widest span in a grasping configuration, and the hand disappeared from everyone's view except Helen's. Number 195. Supergiant. Dignity is dead. Long live the master. Leon's right hand was also held in a grasping posture, though his fingers were not spread as wide as his left, almost as if he were clutching something soft yet invisible. Everyone else in the lab had their attention fixed on the bright silver liquid metal seeping from between the nails of his right hand. No one noticed that Helen Cho was already so tense and Imbara * said her toes had curled against the floor. With absolute thought acceleration, super self-regeneration, biofield, and telekinesis working in seamless coordination, Leon rapidly hand-forged a swirling cluster of living adamantium nanomolecules, suspended midair like silver mist. It resembled a reality stone before crystallization, except luminous silver. This was the raw building block. Leon's version of a reality stone. What it ultimately became depended entirely on programming. Of course, if Leon and Tony were willing to dedicate a fully trained AI to something as trivial as a neural inhibitor, the programming step could be skipped altogether. With AI integration, JRVS for Tony, RC for Leon, the system could self-configure. Next, Leon shaped the nanoma *S into the outward form of a neural inhibitor collar. But it was hollow, purely cosmetic. The moment he withdrew his telekinesis, it would collapse back into shapeless sand. Helen placed the construct onto the wireless data transfer platform and began typing rapidly. Within moments, the neural inhibitor module data streamed directly into the nano-A * assembly. On the nanoscale, far beyond normal vision, the previously force-bound molecules began extending microlinkages like chemical bonds. They clasped one another, forming stable chain structures, coupling perfectly and autonomously. From a macro perspective, even after Leon withdrew his telekinesis, the structure retained its collar form. Now functional, now indestructible, now fully inheriting the defensive properties of living adamantium. It appeared that Tony's Mark 7 armor, designed in half a day using the Regeneration Cradle's nanoprinting framework as reference, was entirely feasible. Nice. I knew I was a genius. Unlike previous armor iterations that required endless trial and error, this nano breakthrough had succeeded in a single attempt. Tony was ecstatic, nearly overwhelmed by the thrill of an imminent new toy. He instinctively moved to hug Helen in gratitude, then remembered she was technically his sister-in-law. Improper. Instead, He grabbed Duem's mechanical arm and waltzed around the lab. That's my partner right there. He spun with the robotic arm dramatically while the rest of the lab stared. RC, make a copy of both the neural inhibitor and Mark 7 data. Yes. Leon summoned RC, A2 mode, casually giving her a near-instinctive Leon's grip pat on the shoulder. She accepted the data from Helen and thoughtfully refastened the few overstrained buttons along Helen's neckline that had given up under structural stress. Those buttons had endured a battle of pressure from both sides. They had served bravely. RC briefly considered that Helen might benefit from more properly fitted clothing, preferably reinforced, perhaps vibranium woven, safe, durable, recyclable, efficient. Hey, come here, darling. Leon beckoned Supergiant forward with teasing familiarity. She approached gracefully, posture elegant, movement softened by her enhanced physique. A faint fragrance followed her as she knelt obediently before him, lifting her gaze upward. Master. Gone was the sharp arrogance of their first meeting. Now her voice was soft, pliant. Within Leon's ranks, as a former prisoner of war, her status was low. Anyone could command her. So she focused entirely on pleasing the one person whose opinion truly mattered. Better devotion than disposal. The thought of being erased by a casual decision terrified her. If she must perish, better in glory than insignificance. Leon noticed her flushed expression. He hadn't even done anything yet. Strange girl. Whatever. He smiled, bright, infectious. With a deliberate motion, his right index finger lifted her chin, increasing the angle of her gaze. From eye contact to lips aligned with his. His finger traced lightly across her lower lip.
Then, tap, tap.
He lightly struck the opposite side of her cheek with a newly formed nano-neural inhibitor collar, spinning around his left index finger. Here. Put it on yourself. His right hand slid down along her cheek and neck, removing the previous adamantium collar in one smooth motion. With his left, he flicked the new living adamantium nano-inhibitor onto her collarbone. And it adhered instantly.
Duam.
Number 196. Nano Armor, Mark VII, truly one suit for life. The restraints suppressing her powers had just been removed. Supergiant lowered her gaze to the new restraint hovering before her throat and froze for a moment, failing to obey Leon immediately. She could feel it clearly. Her telepathic domination and psychic corruption abilities were rapidly recovering. Aside from the two synthetic beings in the lab, everyone inside this laboratory, everyone inside Stark Tower, had already fallen within her mental influence range. And that range was still expanding. Fast. So fast that Supergiant, long deprived of her full psychic reach, felt her mind tremble with exhilaration. This was it. That godlike sensation of omniscience, of absolute mental sovereignty. She felt powerful again. Then she looked up. Leon's calm, knowing smile met her gaze. The faint curl at her lips collapsed instantly. Because everyone else was irrelevant. The one who held her life in his hand stood right in front of her. To Supergiant, Leon Stark was like a black hole, bottomless, unreadable, untouchable. Her psychic manipulation had no effect on him whatsoever. Which meant, whether or not that neural seed remained in her brain didn't matter. If she made the slightest wrong move, Leon would crush her without hesitation. Exactly 2.5 seconds, Pa asterisk said. Then she snapped back to reality and obediently placed the nano-neural inhibitor around her neck. A faint tingling sensation, like tiny insect bites beneath the skin, spread along her collar. When she reached up to touch it, it was gone, embedded beneath flesh and blood. Permanent. The fragile spark of hope in her eyes was extinguished, replaced by crushing despair. Was she truly destined to remain Leon Stark's captive forever? Supergiant. I'm here, Master. At the sound of his voice, she almost reflexively transformed her lingering disappointment into polished obedience. If she had a foxtail, it would have been wagging the word loyalty. The smile she wore wasn't perfectly sincere, but it was pleasing enough. Supergiant, how did you become this spineless? She scolded herself internally. She knew the truth.
There was no going back.
Leon had reshaped her completely. If resistance was futile, then survival meant adaptation. Strangely enough, that acceptance made her smile more genuine. Even Leon, monitoring her through observation hockey, felt faint surprise. I thought you might take the chance to rebel. He narrowed his eyes with a teasing smile, idly scratching beneath her chin like petting a cat. Never. You will always be Supergiant's master. She answered immediately, a thin sheen of sweat forming at her temple. If she had already chosen loyalty and still died branded a traitor, that would be the ultimate injustice. She had followed Thanos once on a whim.
Now?
Who was Thanos? She didn't know him. Leon Stark offered her something far more compelling. Even death at his hands would not be meaningless. Observation hockey confirmed it. She was telling the truth. Leon blinked inwardly. He didn't quite understand how she had resolved herself so completely, but it worked in his favor. He had no intention of removing the inhibitor regardless. Insurance. And, occasionally, leverage.
Perfect.
With Supergiant's collar settled, attention shifted to Tony's Mark 7. Now, the indestructible new element miniature arc reactor housing Leon had previously gifted Tony finally proved its foresight. From the start, its design included a hollow interlayer specifically reserved for nanomaterial storage. For Tony, who primarily relied on electromagnetic manipulation for high-output attacks and used the armor mainly as reinforcement, this living adamantium nano-armor truly was a one-suit-for-life solution. Future upgrades? Simply update the nanomodule programming. Elegant. 2.5 minutes later, Mark 7 was completed in Leon's hands. A tribute to the legendary hand-forging immortal, Leon Stark. With super self-regeneration, Leon's supply of living adamantium was effectively inexhaustible. Under RC's cognitive assistance, he might deserve the title Iron Superman more than Tony. But he preferred Captain Homelander. Concise. Dominant. A statement of strength and leadership. Tony, give it a try. Leon seamlessly integrated the nanomaterial Ma**S into the arc reactor housing on Tony's chest. Tony personally uploaded the armor's combat data and auxiliary systems. He exhaled slowly. The shrapnel fragments that once threatened his life had long since been removed when he awakened his electromagnetic abilities. The cavity in his chest could have healed completely. He chose to preserve it. A reminder. A symbol. The arc reactor was now inseparable from him, just as Leon's shield symbolized his own identity. There were no clanking plates this time. No layered mechanical assembly. The activation was almost silent. Brilliant silver nanomaterial flowed outward from the arc reactor core. Tony's loose clothing offered no resistance. Wherever the spreading nanometal touched fabric, it dissolved instantly, disintegrating as if devoured. From the outside, it looked as though the armor was consuming his clothes. Fragments fell to the floor. And in their place, a sleek, seamless, pure silver Mark 7 nano armor fully assembled over Tony's body for the very first time. A historic moment. Leon had RC record everything. Number 197. Who says Tsundra is outdated? This one's perfect. How does it feel? Leon asked curiously. Tony paused. No strange odor. Leon rolled his eyes. Obviously. Did you expect me to mix in floral musk or gym sock fragrance? Tony laughed, tapping his helmet. Then he grew serious. It feels incredible. Even for my current baseline, the enhancement from this armor is significant. Defense goes without saying. As for strength and speed. He stopped mid-sentence. A fading afterimage lingered where he had stood.
Boom.
In the blink of an eye, Tony appeared beside Leon and threw a punch. Leon didn't move. Bast, ever at his side, reacted instantly. She raised her palm and caught the blow cleanly. Her heels slid back 0.5 centimeter. Leon casually placed a hand against her back, stopping the recoil. You can't even push back a girl? He teased. Big bro, you sure you've still got it? Yeah? Try taking your hand off first. Tony scoffed. As you wish. Leon shrugged and withdrew his support. With a snap of his fingers, he opened a portal to the Arctic Ocean, remote, uninhabited, ideal for testing power without unwanted spectators.
Bast.
Spar with him. No holding back. Yes, master. She nodded obediently. Tony hovered upward and flew through first. Perfect. Just what I wanted. Bast stepped forward, only to feel Leon catch her ankle mid-stride, lifting her leg into an elegant high kick posture. His other arm circled her waist, steadying her. Master? Sure. Give Tony something real. But Mark VII's living adamantium might be a bit rough on your claws. Before she could respond, Leon leaned in and kissed her. Her eyes widened slightly, a flicker of pain crossing them. Because this wasn't just a kiss. He simultaneously activated super self-regeneration, guiding a thread of living adamantium from his own skeletal interface, flowing in liquid form through their contact point. The metal traveled into Bast's body, coating her skeletal structure in an ultra-thin layer of adaptive, living adamantium. Reinforced, sharpened, yet flexible enough not to hinder growth. Her claws gleamed brighter, deadlier. Perhaps, Leon mused, he should eventually outfit all his companions with living adamantium gear. No need for bulky armor. Functional elegance was better. Their lips parted. Bast breathed lightly, fingers gripping Leon's shirt as her now silver claws left shallow creases in the fabric. The sensation she had just endured, sharp, metallic, electric, made her brow tighten for a moment. But compared to Leon's own full adamantium skeletal reinforcement in the past, she had handled it far better. You endured that well. Leon stroked her silver hair gently, brushing near her elfin ear. If you win, you get a reward. Any requests? He blew lightly against her ear. It twitched like a restless wing. Her cheeks flushed, but her gaze hardened. Yes, master. With absolute resolve, Bast stepped through the portal. Leon didn't follow. Through her senses, he could observe everything. Instead, he moved behind Helen Cho, wrapping his arms around her in a familiar embrace. Chin resting on her shoulder. Helen, looks like that fight might take a while. So maybe we…
No.
She cut him off immediately. I have work to do. Go play with your little wildcat. Oh, are you jealous? Leon pressed closer, shameless. I'm not. She folded her arms and turned her head away. CLA, asterisk, sick textbook, denial. Leon's playful side ignited. He began lightly tickling her sides. She burst into laughter. Stop.
Leon.
I can't. The chair rocked, snapped, and in the chaos, Leon maneuvered them both downward, cushioning her fall beneath him.
Thud.
They locked eyes. The mood shifted. Helen closed her eyes instinctively. Leon leaned closer. Then she remembered something. She quickly placed her hands over his lips. What's wrong? I'm on my period. It's not a good day. She turned her face aside, flushed. Leon paused, then gently turned her back toward him. He kissed her forehead.
Soft.
Sincere. I know. No desire. Just warmth. The faint scent of perfume mixed with sweat lingered in the air. 2.5 hours later, one refused to lose. The other couldn't afford to. The Arctic Ocean witnessed a nuclear-scale detonation. Leon sensed it instantly. 2 portals opened in the sky. Tony, his Mark 7 reduced to a minimal protective layer, tumbled through one. Bast, her maid uniform shredded nearly beyond recognition, fell through the other.
Crash.
Tony slammed headfirst into the floor, neck twisted at an alarming angle. He didn't get back up. Bast, on the other hand, was caught midair in a bridal carry. Leon had positioned her portal directly above himself. Aside from some soot on her cheek, she was largely unharmed. He held her effortlessly. So, Leon raised an eyebrow gently. Bast, breathing slightly heavier than usual, looked up at him. I won. Number 198. Bast's little wish. Master, I won. Bast instinctively wrapped her arms around Leon's neck, her eyes shining as she declared her victory. Well done. Leon affectionately tapped the tip of her nose and gently wiped away the faint soot smudged on her cheek. Damn it. I can't believe I lost to a woman. Tony lay sprawled on the floor, pounding it in frustration, lamenting like a thoroughly defeated underdog. He had believed that no matter how outrageous Bast's combat technique and speed were, he could kite her indefinitely, using portal traversal, armor durability, and long-range magnetic manipulation to wear her down. Instead, the hardest shield had met the sharpest spear. The defensive integrity of Mark 7 was shredded by Bast's claws, as if it were tissue paper. As for portal traversal, due to Tony's personal proficiency and mental strain, there was still an unavoidable casting delay. Even after he reduced it to under 0.25 seconds, Bast's speed exceeded his reaction time. She chased him relentlessly. Had she been more proficient at aerial combat and not so straightforward in her attack vectors, lacking JRVS, tactical finesse, Tony might not have lasted this long at all. Thanks to Mark VII's self-repair function and the automatic return properties of living adamantium, he managed to hold out. Thus, what began as a blitz engagement devolved into a prolonged endurance battle, from afternoon until nightfall. And that was when the balance shifted. Objectively speaking, Bast was a genuine goddess. Even if she served as Leon's maid and companion, drawing even with her was hardly shameful. What Tony didn't know was that Bast had been elevated by the Mind Stone, making her even stronger than before. Otherwise, he might have bragged about holding out this long. He had summed the outcome was inevitable until night fell. The darkness was Bast's domain. The moment it descended, her attributes received an outright, unreasonable 100% amplification. Like Leon activating the Fool at full output. One relied on battlefield conditions. The other sacrificed intellect for power. The stalemate shattered instantly. Uncertain how long Bast could sustain that state, Tony chose not to drag the fight further. He made a decisive move. He fabricated a nuclear-level explosive. As Bast closed in for the finishing strike, Tony detonated it without hesitation. Mutual destruction. If I go down, we both go down. Except, under the blessing of night, Bast's defensive resilience resembled Superman fully saturated under a yellow sun. To her, the nuclear blast was little more than harsh wind. Tony, however, even with partial living adamantium coverage, was not yet capable of shrugging it off purely through physiology. The blast rattled him thoroughly. And so, Bast delivered the final strike. Tony conceded defeat. Looks like you've got more training to do, big bro, Leon teased. Just wait. I don't have limits. Tony shot back, fully intent on a rematch in the future. Where's Dr. Cho? He suddenly asked, noticing her absence. Have you checked the time? Leon replied. She and Pepper already left for a spa. With that, Leon lifted Bast in a bridal carry. Hold it. Tony stood up, rolling his neck back into place.
Leon.
Give me more nanomaterial. Regular adamantium is fine. What for? Even as he asked, Leon pulled a large quantity of raw liquid adamantium from his system storage space and began refining it alongside Tony into nanoscale assemblies. I'm designing modular add-ons, external heavy armor frames, and specialized weapons that can dock onto Mark 7. The blueprint for a Hulkbuster CLA*S unit was already forming in Tony's mind. High-consumption modules could use standard gold titanium alloy or battlefield refined metals converted via magnetic manipulation. In the future, if his electromagnetic control improved further, he could theoretically refine surrounding matter into precise metallic atomic structures and forge nanomaterial on the fly. Hand-built mechs wouldn't be a dream. That pile should be enough, right? Leon gestured toward the sieve floating S of adamantium nanomaterial filling Helen's office. He estimated it was enough for at least 10 Hulkbuster units. Should do for now. If I need more, I'll ask. Tony's grin betrayed his satisfaction. For once, instead of Leon living off Stark Industries, Tony was tapping into Leon's near-bottomless reserves. Why hammer metal when you have a walking treasury? Back at Malibu Mansion, Leon carried Bast through a portal directly into his bathroom. Master? With a flick of telekinesis and the eternal flame of Iron-Siga, the bathtub filled instantly with perfectly heated water.
Splash.
Leon dropped Baston. She resurfaced in a compact crouch, water streaming from her silver hair. She instinctively shook her head, then froze. Her cheeks flushed faintly. Sorry, Master. I didn't mean to splash you. It's fine. I was planning to join you anyway. Leon disarmed instantly and stepped into the tub beside her. He lathered his hands with soap, working thick foam across Bast's hair and shoulders, gently washing away soot and battle residue. So, have you decided on your reward? His tone was lighter now. A day. Her voice was barely audible over the sound of water. I want 1 full day of Master's time. Leon slowed his movements slightly. That's all? We're together every day. Bast lowered her gaze. A day where you belong only to me. A day as your wife. It was a simple wish. Among all of Leon's companions, none yet bore that title. Even for a single day, she wished to be first. Leon looked at her quietly, then smiled. If that's what Bast wants. The rest needed no words. The warmth of the bath, the quiet intimacy, and the unspoken understanding filled the space between them. Number 199. A date that makes her blush, and presence concealment strikes true. On the streets of New York. For once, Bast had shed the black and white made uniform that seemed permanently welded to her body. In its place, a crop top that revealed her waist, ultra-short hot pants hugging her hips, and high-heeled thigh-high boots. Her mature, commanding aura was off the charts. After the Battle of New York, Leon's reputation in the city had soared beyond measure. Anywhere he appeared, traffic would grind to a halt. Bast had also briefly appeared in RC's livestream footage. So today, both of them wore masks to conceal their identities. Even so, as they walked side by side, heads turned constantly. Leon's physique, like a living Greek statue, paired with Bast's long, sculpted legs and flawless curves, even without showing their faces, they were magnetic. More than one paw asterisk Serby turned around too long and walked straight into a lamppost. At the moment, Bast held Leon's arm intimately, none of her usual aloofness present. Even through her mask, Leon could see that her smile hadn't faded once. They went shopping, bought clothes, fed each other at dinner, shared the same milk tea, rode attractions at an amusement park, on the Ferris wheel, fingers intertwined, leaning into each other. At the movie theater, they didn't book out the room, choosing instead a back row seat hidden in shadow, enjoying the small thrills of being an ordinary couple. Night was Bast's domain. She grew visibly more energetic, tugging Leon through the park as if she had limitless stamina. They reached a wooden path beside a man-made lake. The scenery was tranquil, almost unreal. To Leon and Bast, night was no different from day. They walked hand in hand, feeling the damp breeze. Then, Leon suddenly knelt in front of her, facing away but glancing back over his shoulder, just as she had knelt before him many times before. Ma, Leon. Bast blinked in confusion. Climb on. You've been the one carrying me most of the time, even if you've had your turns. But not like this. He smiled. Her cheeks reddened. She had already changed into a new outfit earlier, a custom dress Leon had designed specifically for her. Flowing, elegant, revealing. She glanced down at her long, bare legs. Then at Leon crouched before her. They had done far more intimate things, yet this made her unexpectedly shy. Lifting her skirt slightly for balance, she carefully swung her legs over his shoulders and sat atop him, like a child riding her father's shoulders. Except, Bast was anything but childlike. Leon steadied her thighs as she instinctively held onto his head. Ah! Without warning, Leon surged upright and took off. He sprinted along the lakeside path with explosive acceleration. Startled, Bast tightened her legs around his neck and wrapped her arms around his head. His vision was completely blocked by her hands, yet his speed only increased. Faster. Faster. Until he became a streak circling the lake, far exceeding even television portrayals of speedsters. Had he possessed the speed force, he might have torn through space-time. At that moment, daily sign-in available. Proceed.
Yes.
Sign-in complete. Congratulations. Reward obtained. Presence Concealment EX. Presence Concealment EX grants supreme infiltration capability. While undetected, your attacks gain a 50% correction probability toward vital strikes, increasing critical damage. When actively concealing yourself, almost no existence can detect your presence. This effect remains active even in combat. Description: physical infiltration counts too. Leon's eyebrow twitched. Not quite his usual fighting style, but undeniably powerful. As his strength grew, most daily rewards had become negligible. This one, however, was meaningful. Late at night, Leon and Bass flew to the moon. There, they fought at full power. No restraint. The shockwaves nearly fractured the lunar surface. During the battle, Leon quickly discovered the true application of Presence Concealment EX. The critical probability correction wasn't merely about stealth. It adjusted strike outcomes. Even during open combat, his blows landed with uncanny precision. Vital points. Structural weaknesses. Every strike felt inevitable. What had initially seemed like a support skill revealed itself as something far more dangerous. A god-tier ability. By the time the battle ended, Bast was completely exhausted, forced to retreat into Leon's system space to recover. And Leon now understood just how terrifying silent lethality could be. Number 200. Leon. Hail Hydra. Sir. Coffee. After a long and exhausting day, Alexander Charles returned home. The housekeeper stood waiting outside and respectfully took the suit jacket he handed her. Fu*K. Leaning back on the sofa, Charles rubbed his temples wearily. In his mind flashed the image of a man whose face constantly bore an infectiously bright smile. He couldn't help but mutter a quiet curse. The Insight program was undeniably lethal against ordinary people. But against certain freaks who could shrug off even a nuclear strike? The threat wasn't non-existent. It was simply so small it could practically be ignored. He needed something stronger. Something deadlier. Only then could he guarantee absolute certainty. Sir, your coffee. The housekeeper carefully placed the cup on the coffee table. Charles took a sip. The caffeine steadied him, easing the tight knot between his brows. He looked toward the housekeeper, who remained quietly nearby. Lenate, you can head home early today. I'd like some time alone. Yes, sir. Lenate nodded gratefully, barely able to hide her relief, and hurried off to change into her street clothes. Just then, a video call came in. The caller ID displayed a bald black man. Charles's brows furrowed again, but he quickly rearranged his expression into a polite smile before answering. Fury.
Charles.
Sorry about this. I've already submitted your name to Leon. He'll probably drop by for tea in the next couple of days. Brace yourself. Well, thank you very much for that. Charles replied with a smile that stiffened for the briefest instant, too brief for Nick Fury to notice through the screen. You know what he's like, Fury continued. I didn't have a choice. It felt uncomfortably like reporting a best friend to the teacher out of a misplaced sense of righteousness. Only this wasn't a schoolyard. Teachers gave detention. Leon Stark showed up in person. Fury's preemptive confession was the only way he knew to protect Charles. I understand, Charles said calmly. If you understood, you would have listened to me from the start, Fury replied. Deploying the military to support New York was one thing. Authorizing a nuclear strike was too much. Fury. Charles's tone hardened slightly. We knew almost nothing about those aliens. The technology and power they displayed. Was that everything, or just the tip of the iceberg? I couldn't gamble. I won't selfishly bind the fate of the entire Earth to the survival of New York and place all hope in your little super team. Especially when your captain has a habit of disappearing. Fury fell silent. Both sides had their reasoning. Charles exhaled slowly, irritation creeping into his voice. Is there anything else? If not, I'm hanging up. Charles, I want you to call for another vote. Postpone the Insight program.
Why?
Charles frowned deeply. After the Battle of New York, I realized the plan has too many flaws. We can't focus solely on Earth. That's narrow-minded, and it'll get us all killed. Or, Charles countered, we use the Insight program to eliminate destabilizing elements within humanity first. Then we stand united against extraterrestrial threats. Charles, I see your point. But I'm still director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I'll take responsibility for my decisions. Fine. I hope you don't regret it. And you owe me one. A pause. Oh. In a few days, it's my niece's birthday. She's a huge fan of Captain Homelander. My pull isn't enough. See if you can invite Leon Stark to her party. A birthday party? When? And how old is your niece, Secretary Charles? What does she look like? ×2. The sudden male voice, casual, teasing, materialized like a ghost in the room, startling both Charles and Fury. Cold sweat instantly drenched Charles's back. His hand moved reflexively toward the pistol at his waist. Halfway there, he stopped. He already knew who it was. Suppressing both fear and anger, Charles forced on a politician's practiced smile and turned his head. Leon sat cross-legged on the sofa, leaning back in an arrogant, almost theatrical pose, like a king surveying his domain. In his arms rested a blue-skinned alien woman, clearly not from Earth. Supergiant. What brings you here, Captain Homelander? That's too distant, Leon said lightly. Just call me Leon. You're the elder here. One hand rested casually on Supergiant's waist, a waist strong enough to crush a soda can with ease. His other hand waved dismissively. Leon, you.
Beep, beep, beep.
Before Fury could continue, Leon snapped his fingers.
Boom, 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 boom.
Charles's phone, along with every surveillance-capable electronic device in the villa, exploded simultaneously. Along with them, so did Charles's fragile sense of security.
Ah!
A scream rang out. Lenate, now changed and ready to leave, froze in shock. Lenate, didn't I tell you to go straight home? Charles roared, seizing the excuse to vent his fear and fury. Sorry, sir. I was changing. She lowered her head, trembling. Run along, dear. Leon waved at her with a gentle smile. Thank you for your understanding, Mr. Leon. With Leon's approval, Lenate felt as though she had been pardoned from execution. She bowed repeatedly toward both men before hurrying out. Charles had intended to shoot her on the spot, but an invisible force pinned him in place, rendering him completely immobile. Supergiant. Yes, master. Leon gave her a light pat, Leon's grip, and she obediently nodded. Her amber gold eyes rolled back, glowing faintly blue. At that same moment, outside the villa's main entrance, Lenate's eyes turned white for an instant. Then she blinked. Huh. What was I about to do? No need for such killing intent, Leon said with mock righteousness. She's worked diligently for you all these years. That's worth something, isn't it? What just happened? Charles had no idea what Leon had done, but instinct screamed that this visit was anything but friendly. And then, Leon delivered the line that shattered what little composure Charles had left. He turned, smiling calmly, and spoke the most infamous words in S.H.I.E.L.D. history. Hail Hydra!
And with that, Part 8 comes to an end. But Leon Stark's journey is far from over. The adventure on Sakaar has only just begun, and even greater battles, powerful enemies, and unexpected twists are waiting ahead. Milky Way Crossed Swords. Stay tuned for Part 9, where Leon's legendary journey continues. Headphone fire. Until then, keep listening, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Red heart thumbs up speech balloon.